Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Bite with Hutton Withrow is underway on this Tuesday edition. Glad you're with us across the network, which includes streaming live right now on YouTube. You can join Chad in the chat live throughout today's show, which is going to be a fun one. Jim Nagy joins us, executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. More commitments at quarterback for him, and some big names that we'll discuss from the college football ranks coming up later this hour. We've got John McClain with all the NFL news and notes as teams are going one way or the other towards the playoffs or towards potentially Black Monday for some of these NFL coaches. And SEC Michael Bratton later in today's program. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hutton. You're so much better with titles than I am. But when I see someone like
what do you mean?
Jim Nagy, I just call him the head of the you know the
well,
exact
that's probably
title,
better.
Executive director.
Yeah.
No, no, it's not better. You have the exact title. I just say if they're in charge, I just say, oh, that's the person that's in charge of this, or they're the head of this. Even if their title is president, CEO, executive director, anything else, I'm just paying you a compliment saying you're much better at getting the right title than I am. I would just refer to Jim Nagy as, BMOC in Mobile, Alabama.
That's not bad either.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll run it by him and see which title he prefers.
Yeah. The
BMOC of Mobile, Alabama.
Chad is the balanced man, Chad Withrow.
So I'm already pissed off to start this show today in the YouTube chat, and
Go ahead.
It's Tuesday, right? Well, I can be a little bit pissy on a Tuesday at times.
Yes.
Very early
2 days
in the
before
week,
the weekend,
right? And I'm sure a lot of people haven't got their shopping done. Whatever may be ailing you this holiday season, and I'm going in with good faith when I get into the YouTube chat. I'm thinking, today's the day. We're going to have positivity. It's going to be smooth, no issues. And I log in, and I see Ace in our YouTube chat.
Ace
that
Clement
says, wow, Ace Acabras.
Okay.
I hope that's not some sort of double entendre that I just read aloud.
Probably.
Wow, more talk about Eagles losing before the show starts than we talk Cowboys loss entire yesterday's show. I think we spent maybe 3 to 4 minutes on the Cowboys on yesterday's show. I don't recall spending the entire 3 hours we're on talking the Cowboys. So if you're going to take a dig at us, Ace, at least be correct with your information. We spent very little time on yesterday's show talking about the Cowboys because the caption reads something to draw in the eyes. Doesn't mean we're going to spend an entire show. We're on this show for 3 hours. We're not going to spend the entire show talking about the Eagles. We are going to open talking about the Eagles. Why? Because it was the most watched thing on television last night that happened in sports. It was Monday Night Football, and it was a big loss for the Eagles, and it was a big moment for Drew Lock. So I don't want to start the show off on this negative foot, Hutton, but Ace has me pissed off for greatness already.
Well, Ace is not going to like this. Let's just say this is now the 4th backup quarterback in the last 7 Monday Night Football games to win for the underdog opponent. And it's going to be the backup quarterbacks that will either keep certain teams out of the playoffs or will keep certain teams from winning their division, potentially not winning a number 1 overall seed in the postseason. Potentially, that loss keeps Philadelphia from hosting Dallas at some point instead of having to travel to Dallas where the Cowboys win. You'll like that, Ace. Let's also point this out. Philadelphia's lost now 3 straight. And Chad, I see and hear the same reaction that we heard whenever San Francisco and the Niners went through their 3-game lull midway through the season. Reaction was, hey, Shanahan, are you going to bench Brock Purdy? Do you need a quarterback change? The answer immediately, no. We're sticking with our quarterback going into their bye week. Jalen Hurts has been banged up. There are some that believe that Marcus Mariota should be playing while Hurts gets healthy. I like the fact that he's pushing through because this team needs their leader. And once again, Jalen Hurts is leading in a same fashion that he did a year ago. I've been thoroughly impressed with him from the start of last year, where there are a lot of alpha mentalities on that roster. For the most part, he is calm, cool, and collected, and he speaks up when he needs to. And there is a clear leader of the offense. And it's not one of the star receivers. It's not in the backfield. It's not Kelsey up front on the offensive line. It's Hurts. And he says what needs to be said. Last year, they were unbeaten for a long stretch, and he kept saying it's not about one win. This really doesn't factor into what we ultimately want to do. Those sound cliche, and they are. But it was also paired with honesty about what they did wrong in some wins and how they needed to be more consistent. Now it is about complacency, and he's discussing more of a challenge with commitment with the Philadelphia Eagles. This is what's different than what we saw the 3-game losing streak ultimately look like for San Francisco. Let me set it up by saying a part of this 3-game losing streak, they played 3 games in 13 days and then hosted San Francisco at home. San Francisco was coming in off of 10 days rest. They lose. It was a massacre, blowout. They follow that up by playing in Dallas. The Cowboys win. The Dallas Cowboys were also coming off of 10 days rest. Again, that's how the NFL works. No reason to pout about that. Philadelphia is good enough to win those games. And last night, I'm thinking to myself, what's really going on in Philly? Where in Week 15, they're changing the defensive coordinator and the play caller, turning to Matt Patricia. That is way late in the year to make that change. And then you have, after the loss, 20-17, with Drew Lock leading the way against said defense down the field, 90-plus yards to win the game. You have Hurts go to the podium and question the Eagles' commitment after three losses in a row. And the quote being, I've been talking about execution all year, being on the same page. We did execute. I don't think we were committed enough, Just got to turn it around. It's a challenge we have to embrace. We just got to continue to see it through. And then he was asked what he meant by that statement about commitment. He says, commitment, I don't know. I don't have a dictionary on me right now. I don't know how else to say it. It's a matter of being on the same page. It takes everyone being all in all aspects, and it starts with me. I love the tone and the tenor of what he's saying because it resonates with everyone else, and the collective group follows one guy, and it's Jalen Hurts. They wouldn't be doing that with Marcus Mariota. So while I say don't hit the panic button, just like I said that for Brock Purdy and an excellent team in San Francisco with an excellent coach, I'm saying it here with Philly, even though there's more to this than what we saw the Niners go through, because they're admitting with the coaching change and the play caller change on defense, something is just missing in that aspect. And I think in Sirianni's case, he's pointing to his players and listening to them, making the play call change defensively, and he's not making the change at quarterback because his quarterback's banged up, because that guy is the leader in the locker room, and he's one of the best doing it right now. I trust Jalen Hurts to get it right. And I'm trusting Brock Purdy to get it right. And he did. I say, calm down, don't hit the panic button. However, they need to host in the playoffs. Dallas wins at home. Philly does not need to go on the road and play that game. They got to pick it up. That was a bad loss last night for the Eagles.
It was bad, and that 92-yard drive they give up in the end to Drew Lock. And kudos to Drew Lock, a really cool story with his bounce back in the post-game interview and everything else. But that's a missed opportunity for that defense with Matt Patricia now calling defensive plays. I'm curious. I'm with you, Hutton. I'm not pressing the panic button as an observer of the Eagles. But could you argue that Nick Sirianni pressed the panic button with that move, or is that just prudent at this point in the year?
I think
when you look at changing defensive play calling responsibility in mid-December.
That Prescott playing at home versus on the road. And the results speak for themselves. That's crucial for Dallas, crucial for Philly. Chad, a lot of teams are losing to backup quarterbacks. That's playing a massive factor in the playoff push. And in the transfer portal, we're seeing quarterbacks go to teams that may be willing to sit a year. And I'm stunned by this.
Well, there's one. So this is the reverse.
Didn't LSU just get a backup as well?
Well, they got A.J. Swan.
But they have Nussmeier.
He's going to compete for the starting job,
sure,
though.
But
I don't know that any of those other guys are gonna beat him
Last
out.
year,
But,
we saw what happened at Ole Miss. It's just
let's
the
recap
mindset
a little
of
bit
this.
because this has been a constant argument of mine and complaint. I look at certain quarterback situations and I think, do they look at the depth chart before committing to a school? It's an embarrassment of riches in certain spots with quarterbacks and guys who should be starting at the FBS level or at the Power 5 level, and you double up in the case of Ole Miss a year ago with Jackson Dart and Spencer Sanders and the guy who came at Walker Howard from LSU. They had too many. Why? Why is everyone going to Ole Miss at once? I understand challenging yourself and wanting to be the alpha in the room and feeling like, I don't care if those guys are there. I'm going to go beat them out and take their job. There's also doing what is smart and going to a place where you know you're going to be the starter. You like the coaching staff. You like the system. They're going to develop you for the next level. Or if you don't have a next level and you're not an NFL quarterback, you can go somewhere and be developed and have a good college career. That's what most quarterbacks should do. Some don't do that. So when I saw Dante Moore, 5-star freshman at UCLA, who started 5 games for Chip Kelly this year, transfer to, wait for it, Oregon, it was a head-scratcher. I'm thinking, why on earth would a 5-star freshman quarterback go to a school that just a week and a half ago landed Dillon Gabriel, who is a veteran guy who's been a star at Central Florida, at Oklahoma, and now will go on to be a star at Oregon? And then I looked deeper into it, and I found a guy that is admitting and is self-aware enough to know, I need to be developed. I'm not ready. Dante Moore was not good enough to retain the job at UCLA. Ethan Garbers was better. Chip Kelly was on Pat McAfee's show today and said that. He said he lost the job to another guy, and we feel better about this situation now. And he played well against USC to end the year, and he played really well in their bowl game against Boise State. Hey, not every 5-star quarterback is created equally. Some guys need time. Some guys aren't stars right when they get to school. So Dante Moore has made the decision. Oregon finished second, Dan Lanning did in Oregon, in his recruitment. He's watched what Oregon did with Bo Nix, and he said, I'm going to go there. I know I'm the backup to Dillon Gabriel. I'll sit for a year, and then I'll have a year or two to be the starter. That's my plan now. I'm going to willingly, how many guys would do this? Willingly go and sit to learn and develop. I think that's awesome. Good for Dante Moore. There's not enough quarterbacks that will do that.
Yeah, and how about what this says for Will Stein at Oregon?
Yeah.
You know, a young offensive coordinator who has Dante Moore join him and potentially redshirt. I mean, that's also on the table for 1 year. But Will Stein may end up being a head coach sooner rather than later as well. But I think that's also someone to look at and watch moving forward as a coach. Because Moore is from Detroit, went to UCLA, and now Oregon. And we look around college football, there are quarterback rooms. I mean, Deion's looking for a veteran quarterback to go and help back up Shedeur.
He got one from Vanderbilt, a freshman quarterback that's coming in to transfer to back up Shedeur. But normally I would say, why are you doing this? Look at a depth chart, go somewhere and start. And Dante Moore could have done that. He could have gone to a number of places and been the starter day one. But he said, I like Oregon. I like Dan Lanning. I should have gone there out of high school. I didn't. Here's my second chance. I'm going to go there and back up a better quarterback and learn from him. That takes moxie. That takes foresight. And I applaud Dante Moore for that move.
Now he's coached by Stein, who was a quarterback in college as well.
Yep,
so
at Louisville.
Coming up, on the bus, off the bus, we'll discuss NFL MVP and more straight ahead here on Hot Mic.
Now she is coming out and saying that playing for the United States is the, quote, worst job in the world. And she's saying this because of the criticism she garnered, which obviously she brought on herself by doing all of the horrible things that she did over the course of her career. One being that she felt super compelled to kneel for the national anthem and not show her pride for the United States, despite having the platform and representing the country in a way that very few people on earth get the ability to do. Listen, she's a leftist. We all know this. she is fully on board with biological men playing in women's sports. That's another thing that she was getting criticism for, which again, she should, because as a woman, she should realize that if she did allow biological men to play in soccer, let's just say, her success probably wouldn't have been even close to what it ended up being. Because as we know, I'm going to say it time and time again, men, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. Women, as great of athletes as they can possibly be, they just do not add up to what men are capable of. But obviously, as a Democrat, as an elite leftist, Megan Rapinoe feels the need to play the victim card, as they all do. I just can't get behind this. Playing for the United States is the worst job in the world. So let's just lay this out. Megan Rapinoe is a professional athlete. Probably the coolest job in the world. You get paid to live out your passion. Literally the thing that you started doing when you were a child, the thing that you would go out to recess to do, right? You are now getting to do throughout your life and now getting paid a ton of money to do it. Okay, that doesn't sound like work to me. That sounds like you just get paid to fulfill your hobby. You get to stay in shape. You get to meet the coolest people in the world. You get to travel all around the world. You have access to the greatest resources that all of us could even dream of having access to. Yet you're calling this the worst job in the world because you have to represent the United States, which, by the way, is the most tolerant country on earth. We have the most freedoms. We have the most liberties. Any immigrant that would come over to this country would be very thankful to be in the position that they're now in versus living where they fled so vastly from. It's just none of this adds up to me. But for Megan Rapinoe to say this does not really confuse me. All she likes to do is whine and complain. And I feel like she's teaching a horrible lesson to young girls. Not that she already hasn't been doing that by saying biological men belong in women's sports. But obviously, to be in this position of power, to have this influence and use it for really nothing, to not have the proper influence that you would want. I just can't get behind this. I hope this is the last time that I have to talk about Megan Rapinoe, and maybe now that she's out of her soccer job, maybe she should try to go fulfill another job. Maybe she should go work as a janitor somewhere where she has to clean up after everybody. And that's what she spends her days doing. I mean, thank goodness for the janitors out there. We wouldn't be able to get by without them. But I'm just saying,
Glad you're with us. 6th and Peabody, our location with the beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hot Mike with Hunting Withrow rolls on here on the OutKick Network. Starting January 3rd, the only place to catch OutKick's original and fearless shows live. It's going to be on our website, OutKick.com. Just click on the Watch tab there. You'll be able to catch up on YouTube on demand. But for all of the live content, head over to the Watch tab at OutKick.com. OutKick.com/watch, your one-stop shop for all things OutKick. Chad, one thing about last night's game, other than Philly losing, is Seattle's win now gets them to 7-7 after a losing streak with Drew Lock, and their playoff hopes remain alive in the NFC with an opportunity this coming weekend as they travel to Nashville to face the Titans. Geno Smith was active, but no one was really sure how they would go at quarterback. With Locke now playing well, at least in this case, that final drive was excellent in the conditions and leaving time on the clock, really, after the touchdown pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm curious how they roll moving forward. I think it'll be Geno Smith, but the fact he was active and not just the emergency quarterback was interesting if they're going with Locke last night.
Well, and it saved their season for now.
Yeah, it is.
With
You're right.
that win, it was incredible.
It is time for NFL Overreaction. Davey Hudson joins us.
Guys, it's been a fun last several weeks watching Monday Night Football. A lot of games come down to the wire. Obviously, the underdog has been victorious more often than not recently. And, good to see Drew Lock come out and have that drive. I don't know if you guys caught his post-game presser, but he was just discussing, I don't know if I still had it. This was one of those things, I was happy I was able to go out and prove that I could still play at this level. And so my first comment for today, Seattle should start Drew Lock again this week.
I'm going to say yes. I think there's some mojo there with Drew Lock. Don't go away from it. They just beat the Philadelphia Eagles, who's still one of the best teams in NFL, and they did so on a 92-yard touchdown drive to win the game. I'm letting that carry over, and I'm giving Drew Lock another opportunity. So, yeah, I don't think that's an overreaction. He should be the starter right now for Seattle. And if it goes south for him, you go back to Geno Smith.
I think they start Geno Smith if he's healthy. He's got coming off the groin injury that he suffered against the 49ers, limited practices, whatever it might be. We saw what Geno Smith meant to Seattle a year ago, and that locker room certainly did as well. I'm riding with the guy that you just signed into an extension this offseason, one that you have an out clause with after this season, but one that has shown you a lot more in his recent play in Seattle compared to what we saw from Drew Lock, who beat him. They competed in camp a year and a half ago. I'm riding back with Geno Smith. He gives you the best chance to reach the postseason. And we also see, Chad, the flurry, the quick glimpse of the backups that come in, and then defensive coordinators and head coaches adjust to that on tape.
Yeah, I would let them see if they adjust first and then go back to Geno. I'm riding the hot hand until he's no longer the hot hand. And then going back. My option is very clear. If it goes south, I'm going quickly back to Geno Smith as the starter. But let's see if there's a little bit of magic left, I guess magic for the first time for Drew Lock as an NFL quarterback if he can keep this thing going.
Just staying there real quick. Did you have Seattle as your pick yesterday on that's my quarterback as far as time to probably go in a new direction?
New direction in the offseason, yes.
Okay.
But if you want to stay on the direction of postseason, I'm playing Geno Smith. Given the time and the effort spent with the starting receivers and the weapons that he has, and the mobility. I'm using that to my advantage if I'm Seattle, especially on the road.
I agree with you on that one. Staying with that game last night, Jalen Hurts lost the MVP.
Yes.
Yep.
He did. That's not an overreaction. It's similar, though, to what we saw last year, except he's playing through some things instead of trying to get the shoulder ready for the postseason like he did a year ago, Chad. It's unfortunate because he's playing well, but they haven't had that same spark that we've seen from the past Philly offense of 2022.
Yeah, no, he lost it. And I'm with Hutton. The same deal as last year, except he's just playing through the injury this year. But the time with the injury is going to cost him the MVP. Time with the injury last year is because he didn't play, and that's why he didn't win the MVP. This year he's playing through it. So, yeah, he lost it last night.
And I'll say, the 49ers have already wrapped up their spot in the NFC, their division. You've got, on the other side of things, Baltimore. They'll face each other this week. Lamar Jackson can play his way into that role and that award, I should say. And if the quarterbacks end up canceling themselves out, Christian McCaffrey is going to win MVP. It's not going to be Jalen Hurts. Or we should also mention Dak Prescott, who did not play well on the road against Buffalo.
Guys, we've been talking that race for the number one overall pick. And the New England Patriots will be drafting number one overall.
Carolina still has a draft pick, right?
No. Well, they
do, but it's
Bears.
Chicago's.
Yeah.
Goes to Chicago. Chicago's getting it. Carolina's the worst team in the league. I'm trying to figure out a way to say this. I don't know all the implications of who gets what pick, but Carolina with 2 wins right now, they're 1 game clear of New England with 3 wins. That's why that was such a damning loss for Arthur Smith. And that's why he benched Desmond Ridder. And he's going with Taylor Heineke now. because that's an embarrassment
Again.
to lose to that Panthers team.
You're right.
And the Patriots just beat the Steelers. That's something. The Panthers have nothing. It's whoever's got the Panthers pick, the Chicago Bears, will be drafting number 1 overall.
Yeah, I still think the Bears have the number 1 overall pick because the Panthers will host Green Bay. They've got to have a win. That's Christmas Eve. They then will travel to Jacksonville. That's going to be doing everything possible in the division, knotted up right now with Houston. And then they finish the season against Tampa. And it could come down to the final week for Tampa if they want to lock up the division. So I don't see Carolina winning another game, even though they had no business beating Atlanta, even though Atlanta sucks too.
What's interesting is right now, both teams, they have the exact same strength of schedule. And if it were to be a tie, the team with the easier schedule would get the number 1 overall pick. And so I anticipate New England losing out. And if Carolina just gets one more win, which I could see it coming against the Buccaneers. I mean, we've watched this NFC South all season. They've not been very consistent, to say the least. And so that's one of those games, too, where it's Carolina's, they don't care about getting that draft pick. And I know the teams don't necessarily go to the tanking route, but if you're the Bears in that situation, they're not the one like playing for their own pick in this case.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but so the Patriots have the Broncos, the Bills. Both of those are on the road. Then they'll host the Jets to finish the season.
And the Panthers have Packers in Jacksonville, Bucks.
Yeah.
Panthers aren't winning another game.
Yeah, same for New England.
Yeah, I don't think either team's going to win another game, but it's going to be the Bears picking first.
Okay, guys. Well, moving right along, going back into the playoff conversation, the AFC North will get 3 teams into the playoffs.
I think we've been there, done that, and I don't see it happening.
I don't either. I think I'm going to say overreaction. I think it's 2. I think it's Baltimore and Cleveland. I think it's going to be Joe Flacco in Cleveland that's going to find a way in there. That's shocking to say that when Deshaun Watson went down, that they were going to be maybe better off in some weird alternate universe, but I think those are the 2 teams that go.
So, and the Steelers have dropped down a bit now at 7-7, their record.
Yeah,
3 straight. It's funny you mentioned that because 2 of those games are to the Cardinals and the Patriots.
Yeah,
I'm eliminating the Steelers from this competition. I know mathematically they're not, but the way they've played lately, they're out.
Well,
in my mind.
And the teams that are ahead of them, Buffalo's winning, and they're playing very well currently. The Texans are going to get Stroud back from concussion protocol, and then you have the Colts, who for whatever reason continue to win. They're sitting there at 8-6. Bengals, Browns from the AFC North. It should. Oh, and then, well, you've got. I think the Bills are going to work their way in. Chad, I think it comes down to Colts, Texans, and both of those teams continue to play well. And then it goes into the final week of the season because you've got Baltimore. Baltimore's going to lock that up. Bengals or Browns, one of them is going to fall out.
There's not a lot to get excited about in terms of possible deep playoff run at the bottom of the AFC playoffs outside of Buffalo.
So, okay.
I look at all those other teams, and I view them very similarly, that they're one and done, except for the Bills, who is a nightmare if you have to host the Bills in that early playoff game if they find a way to stay hot and work their way back into the playoffs. Am I wrong there? Are you worried about anyone else in that group? Cleveland, Cincinnati, with Jake Browning, Texans, Colts.
I'm worried about Cleveland's defense. That travels everywhere.
Yeah,
they're a wrecking crew. The trend has been, though, the backups that have had that spark kind of goes away, kind of burns out a little bit. There's still some smoke, but not much fire after 3 or 4 weeks. Can Jake Browning continue to provide that for Cincinnati? I would doubt that, given the trend and how typically defenses tend to figure you out from a coaching perspective.
Guys, there's still 2 games back as you look at the wild card race. 2 spots back, not 2 games back. But the Buffalo Bills will definitely make the playoffs.
I think they're going to win their way in. This also just comes down to Josh Allen protecting the football. He can turn the football over. Chad, he can't have the 3 or 4 turnover games.
No.
And he's done that whenever they've really faltered through the first half, 3/4 of the season.
Chargers, win. That's the remaining schedule. Hosting the Patriots, win. May come down to Buffalo in Miami the final week of the season. But I think this team's gonna work their way into the playoffs. That they're not losing the next 2 weeks, and
there's a way they can win the division. There's a way. Mathematically, they win out.
The Dolphins' schedule is very tough to end the season. Then they got to host Buffalo, so they could win the division with that game.
Week 18 could come down to winner takes the division, which is fascinating considering where Buffalo was. Very average, up and down. They'd fall back to 500, win 2, lose 2, and now they're currently playing the best football right now across the league in terms of just winning streaks and how great they've looked in some of these wins.
Guys, I'm going rogue right now, but Shane Steichen should be the coach of the year.
No, he's not coach of the year. There's too many storylines, and no one's mentioning Indianapolis in anything. There's no buzz around Indy.
Yeah, I mean, I get the argument, Davey. If it's DeMeco Ryans is the one that everyone presumed was going to be the coach of the year with what he did with the Texans. Now they're tied, Colts and Texans. So why not the team that is playing with a backup quarterback and not the rookie? They've had C.J. Stroud longer in Houston. I understand the argument. I don't think he's winning coach of the year though.
Kyle Shanahan's going to win it.
DeMeco Ryans, Kyle Shanahan. I think that he's probably third or fourth down the list. I mean, I'll throw another one out there if they make their way to the playoffs. Kevin Stefanski.
Stefanski's a great one.
With Cleveland.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean,
that's another great one.
I just think that they're going to get more love than Indianapolis. Whether that's right or wrong, they're going to that's more of a story.
And up until their recent losses, they've dropped a couple now. They've got Detroit. They just lost to Detroit. But Sean Payton starting 1-5 to get them back into playoff contention. They're not going to reach the playoffs. But had they, he's coach of the year.
And another guy that's kind of just falling under the I get it's the Lions, but I mean Dan Campbell and what he's been able to do.
They got back on track.
They did in a big way
against Denver.
But
they have not looked the part.
Yeah. I feel like they reached a level to where it's almost like number 1 seed they got to get for him to win coach of the year. Yeah, because there were big expectations for them.
Well, I thought he was right there to win it, Chad, until Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then since then, they haven't looked the same. But they did look great this past weekend.
Guys that will not be in the running for Coach of the Year, but Mike Vrabel, Robert Saleh, Todd Bowles, and Dennis Allen will all return to their respective coaching positions in 2024.
Oh, this is an overreaction.
Absolutely not. I'm going to go ahead and say right now 2 of the 4 are likely out. Dennis Allen, Todd Bowles. I think half of them will be out. I think Saleh's back as long as Aaron Rodgers wants him back. It's going to be Rodgers' decision on that one, and Mike Vrabel's going to be back.
I agree. I think Allen or Bowles will potentially be back. There are going to be so many openings. Tell me how many new coaches are going to get these jobs. Bowles or Allen will be able, especially Todd Bowles, with Baker Mayfield and the way they're playing. It's going to be hard to tell Bowles to, get out, leave, if they end up winning a bad division, but also with Baker Mayfield playing the way he currently is, which is really good. It's also a quiet storyline.
I would be nervous if I'm a Bucs fan about them being close to giving Baker a long-term deal. We've seen that before where a quarterback will come in for a year.
He's been really good.
He's bet on himself.
I'm with you, Davey, that you don't know that he's going to continue that, but he's earned a little more time, at least, with them. He was great this past weekend.
Mike Evans won't be back. He will be losing him.
Another 1,000-yard receiver. 9 straight now?
Jim Nagy knows something about 1,000-yard receivers.
He does. He joins us next.
It depends on certain things, but I feel like now it's like a teammate. Like that should be your partner, your teammate. Like I'm not cleaning all the house all the time because I'm not your mom.
I agree. We're double income, no kids, so I really like a partnership, but I don't want to take the trash out.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to do that.
She takes the kids, I provide. Very traditional.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that more young people should do that?
Yes, very much so.
What is it about like a motherly quality that you like?
It's worked for thousands of years, and it still works today.
I like being girly. I'm a girl and I like being girly, so I like traditional gender roles.
Okay, well, according to the 7 Hermetic principles, one of those being the law of gender, or to say gender manifests on all levels, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, all levels. Throughout the cosmos, there's gender. I don't know, it's a light. It's a book I read called The Supreme Way of Men or Women or something like that, and it spoke on how whether it's 2 women or 2 men, there still has to be someone who's masculine, someone who's feminine.
What would you spend on an engagement ring?
I'm not an engagement ring type of person. I'm like, but if she wanted a ring, I'd probably spend like 20 on it.
20 what?
1,000.
20,000. That's a lot of money.
Hey, and shit.
You don't get that lady a real answer.
Not for real. Ain't it how much you make though?
Price, I didn't really care. Size, absolutely. Had to be big enough it could be seen, and I didn't want like a basic ring. I wanted like eclectic, like vintage looking.
Okay.
So we did a custom order to do my ring.
I didn't have a preference. I just had a gold preference, and he kind of took it from there.
And you trusted him. Did he crush it?
Oh yeah, he crushed it.
I've been spoiled thus far, and so I don't think I could ever go back from what I received last time.
Okay, so high standards. That's good. What are the standards?
Okay, it was 5 carats,
Okay.
and it was beautiful.
Mine was way too expensive,
What's way too expensive?
like $45,000.
You probably went with a real diamond.
Very much so, yeah.
Do you think that that's kind of a flex for the guy? Like, is the engagement ring, is the engagement ring only for the girl, or do you get to watch other people look at your girl's ring?
Solely for the girl. Solely for the girl.
You don't get any enjoyment.
Couldn't care less.
Red flags in dating, because obviously you found each other. Did you have any icks that you overlooked, or is he perfect?
No, he's perfect. We had a nice night out at the bar. Fought over a toy shark, and that's how it all got started.
What don't you like? Red flags.
Cheating, lying, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you looking for in a woman?
Honesty, respect, in love for herself.
Some green flags are loyalty and trustworthy. Red flags are seeking attention from other women.
Jealousy, probably biggest thing, especially being around other girls all the time and having other girlfriends. That would be the #1 thing, is jealousy.
Red flag is they're on their phone too much. Green flag is they're on their phone a lot with you.
Well, look for loyalty. That's it. I'm 24, so it's hard to come across that like when you're young. So that's really all I look for, really, honestly.
What were deal breakers?
If she was broke, I know that sounds crazy, but for real, if she was broke, cause like it's like, yeah, like I don't want to take care of a motherfucker. Like I want to equal.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with EHOP Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Glad you're with us. Hot Mic with Hutton Withrow rolls on here on the OutKick Network. The new and improved OutKick store is finally live. You can stock up on golf polos, T-shirts, hats, and more. Shop.outkick.com is where you can go for that. Shop.outkick.com. Jim Nagy joins us, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. Joins us weekly as we scout college football. And we may peek ahead some to the NFL and the play that is on the field. Former NFL scout joins us. Jim, good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you guys.
I know you're on the trail trying to find more commitments for quarterback positions, and well, you may be able to enlighten us on that, or maybe not. But I'm eager to know you're swinging for the fences on this, right? With the top quarterbacks across college football, and it's typically what you end up doing. You haven't been turned down that often.
No, we're going after the big guns. We have to. Last year broke our streak. We had 7 straight years with a first-round quarterback. Last year it just didn't work out that way. Will Levis right there in your backyard was the one guy we had a shot at, and then Will had a foot injury that kind of forced him out of our game. So we had a bunch of Jake Hayner and Clayton Toon and Jaron Hall and Tyson Bagent. It was just that was last year's class. Now this year's class is different. You've got the 3 guys that were in New York for the Heisman there a couple weeks ago, last week. Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix, and we've got commitments already from Spencer Rattler from South Carolina, Joe Milton from Tennessee, and Michael Pratt, who I just got off the phone with from Tulane. He's actually in Nashville right now. He drove up there with his girlfriend. They were just hunting in Arkansas together, doing some deer hunting. So he's somewhere around you guys right now.
Tell him to swing by. Tell him to swing by Old Smoky.
But yeah, we're gonna be taking swings at Drake May as well from North Carolina, and again, Caleb Williams. I'm not sure. Like Caleb, from what I understand, isn't going the representation route. He's not going to get an agent, so it's going to be. I don't have any way to get a hold of him if he doesn't have an agent.
Get with his dad. His dad loves to talk. You can text his dad. He may answer for him.
That's what I've heard.
Jim, so when are the agents trying to say, like, hey, how much is he going to play in the game? Like, how concerned are the agents on their end about playing time versus potential injury? Again, spitballing here. What's the typical conversation like?
Yeah, it depends. That really hasn't come up. It's come up with a couple of other positions outside of quarterback, where guys are, actually with a couple of running backs want to know, like, do we, how much contact and like for the running backs, for example, we don't tackle to the ground during our inside run periods. We just have the guys thought up and wrap up and stop progress, and then we whistle it. So
typical
not
practice.
Going to the ground. Yeah, for practice. And then so the most physicality in practice is actually, the pass protection drills, the one-on-one pass pro with the linebackers. But yeah, in the game, obviously we're tackling. Yeah. We'll tackle to the ground, but no, it hasn't come up with the quarterback. There's a lot of rules in place. No blitzing, really vanilla coverages. No wide 9 techniques where you've got guys screaming off the edge. Like there's things we do within the rules that help protect those quarterbacks.
So I'm old school, Jim, and that I like players to play in as many games as they can if they're physically able to do it. But we're having more and more opt-outs in bowl games, not non-playoff games. How do most NFL teams view those decisions? Is it case by case? Is there kind of a blanket understanding that they're not going to let that bother them if someone opts out? From the NFL perspective, how is that normally viewed?
It's changed quite a bit. That's a really good question. All I can go back is to Christian McCaffrey when he was the first player to opt out of a bowl game. I was working with the Seahawks, and the reaction in the room amongst our staff was like, "What is this kid doing?" Like we couldn't believe it that you'd be turning your back on your team. That's kind of how it's perceived. It's amazing how far away from that we are right now with where the NFL stance is on these guys that opt out of bowl games. I think the league understands it's a business decision for these players. And I could cite a lot of different examples over the years of guys that opted to play in the bowl game and then got hurt, which then kept them out of the entire draft process. And for the fans that don't understand it, because I'm with you, like I'm a traditionalist as well. I've got great memories of just laying around New Year's Day with my family and watching bowl games as a kid with my dad, who was a high school coach. So I'm with you on that. But the money is so great compared to what it was then. There's so many things that play that I think the league is really taking a different stance. I think where the league is, where they might look at it a little differently is if a player opted out of the college football playoff when they were really playing for something, when they're playing for a championship, playing for a title, and you opt out of that. I think that would raise some eyebrows around the league. But right now, opt out of the bowl games, not so much. And what I like to tell people that are really harsh against these players is the difference between the bowl game and the Senior Bowl, because I see that a lot on social media. How could a guy opt out of our bowl game and then go play in the Senior Bowl? Well, the bowl game is just whatever it is. This 55th, 56th college football game for that school, and there's barely any scouts at those games. You talk about a week-long event with every key decision maker in the NFL, head coaches, GMs, coordinators, that are really going to be determining the fate of this young man's professional career. and you're not only on the field in front of those guys, with them on the practice field with you, standing 10 feet from you, you're also spending, a lot of time in meeting rooms, in interviews, where you can really impress these guys and make those connections, which matter when we get to April. So again, I always try to put it in the context of how would you feel if it was your son or your brother or your nephew? And then tell me what you would think. Like if your son was about to make life-changing money, would you be expecting him to go out and play in a bowl game? No, I don't think you would. So I think it's just the lens we all see things through.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jim, because you mentioned Joe Milton a little bit earlier. Joe Milton's a guy who's committed to play in the Senior Bowl. He's not yet declared his intention whether or not he's going to play in the Citrus Bowl against Iowa or not. Do you feel like the agents are on the Senior Bowl side on this with their clients where, hey, it's better for you to play in this game and be there for this week as opposed to playing in the bowl game? If you decide to do both, great. But if you're going to do one, pick your game. Is that where agents are siding?
100%. 100%. I mean, I think as a rule, that's what it is. And again, I don't think many agents try to dissuade players from playing in the bowl game. But if it is like an either or proposition, I think they, and again, it's the rest factor too. Like right now we're working through this with a couple players that they're banged up. It's a 12, 13 game season. A lot of these guys aren't feeling great physically. So now it's, do I shut myself down on December 1st and give myself 8 full weeks till Senior Bowl time to get my body healthy? Or do I keep practicing and then play in another game in January and then only have 3 or 4 weeks to get myself ready? So I think that plays a lot of it. But I do think the agents would much rather, if there's the choice, go to Mobile, get in front of all these guys that are going to be making the picks in April. Because the difference is, and maybe I've said this on the show with you guys before, like it's different when a scout like me goes into a draft room and is pounding the table and saying what he saw on a campus or saw at a game. It's an entirely different thing when you've got a head coach and a GM and a coordinator that also was around this player in Mobile for a week, then they get that personal investment in it, right? Like they've bought in. They've seen it themselves. They've felt it themselves. They've heard it themselves. It's not secondhand information for them. So it's an easier buying factor, and I think the agent community knows that.
Jim Nagy, our guest, the Senior Bowl coming up on February the 4th. As far as the offensive linemen are concerned going into the draft, I'm sure the scouts across the league, Jim, have a good understanding about these guys because there's several of them last year that maybe surprised some by going back to college for an extra year. And that means the top 75 picks or so, it will be stacked with offensive linemen, and many of them are going to your bowl.
Yeah, it's a really good first of all, I'll say it's a deep class. It's a talented class, and maybe it's because of what you said. I think a couple of these guys went back for an extra year, which beefs it up. Also, I think the other compounding factor in this is the offensive line play across the NFL right now isn't very good.
Yeah.
Point blank. I mean, we all sit around on Sundays and Monday nights and watch what's going on. And quarterbacks are getting killed. And I know you guys talked about it on your show about just the state of the NFL, and every week it seems like every game you turn on, at least one of the two quarterbacks is the backup. And that's not a great place to be as a league. So I do think you'll see some teams maybe push those linemen up and draft for need a little bit. But it is a very talented class. So I think right now, we went over the board a couple of days ago. I think there's 7 or 8 linemen in the game right now that could be first-round draft picks when we get to April. And that's a lot. We had 5 my first year here at the Senior Bowl back in 2019. We had 5 first-round offensive linemen. And I think we could better that this year. I'd actually be surprised if we didn't better that this year.
You surprised that Carson Beck ends back at Georgia for another year? Or did you expect to see him in the draft?
Well, we were hearing a lot of different things. So we've taken his card off the board. We've put it back on. Literally the other day, I grabbed it out of a drawer that we had that we'd taken it off. I threw it back on the board, and 10 minutes later, someone yells out the hallway that Carson Beck's going back to school. So I don't know. Maybe we jinxed that, but it wouldn't have surprised me either way. I think if Carson came out this year, he would have gone somewhere on day 2. I think it's going to serve him well, his development well, by going back and playing another year in the SEC. Again, there's always the injury risk of going back and playing 12 games, at the college level. But I think developmentally, he'll be a better quarterback a year from now than he would be if he came out this year. And this is a deep class. We've talked about it. We mentioned some of the names earlier. I don't think next year will be quite as deep, and that probably works in Carson's favor as well.
A couple of under-the-radar prospects that will be drafted in the first 3 rounds from the group of 5. Let's just look at the MAC, for instance. Toledo quarterback Quinyon Mitchell is one that you certainly have your eye on from the Senior Bowl perspective, and one that a lot of teams will.
Yeah, I don't know how much Maction you guys talk here on the show.
Not a ton. Not a ton.
We get into the Maction a little bit. Yeah, Quinyon Mitchell is a name for all the listeners. That's a guy that you need to know about if you're one of these draft geeks like me. First he's in a lot of these mock first-round drafts already. Big, long, tall corner from Toledo. Very productive, very physical, aggressive player. And then another guy from the MAC is Marshawn Nealand, a defensive end from Western Michigan, who he kind of flirted with the portal, and he was going to go to Colorado and be with Coach Prime this year, and he ended up staying in Kalamazoo, Michigan. But he's a guy that on our calls with NFL teams, a lot of teams already have him in the 3rd round. And then one of his former teammates from Western Michigan who did go in the portal, Braden Fiskey, is at Florida State, another guy we have in the Senior Bowl, who was at Western Michigan last year. So just some names, just some small school names. I know we're about 3 months out from the draft, but those are some names that are probably flying under radars that the people that really love the nitty-gritty draft stuff, those are a couple names to keep in mind.
Hey, how soon or how long does it take for players, prospects to get the grade back overall, the range of round they could be selected, given the feedback of the NFL? When do they know that?
And that's what they're all waiting on right now. That's a great question. That's a lot of those guys are waiting on that right now. And because the juniors are eligible for us right now, we're in limbo because they're waiting on that grade. They usually petition that first week in December, and it usually takes a couple weeks to get back. So I'm sure a lot of guys will be hearing this week before the holidays. I know the league. I know when I scouted, I would get a list from the Seahawks. Hey, Jim, watch these guys.
Yeah.
Because I just got off the phone with a junior who we got committed to the game about a half hour ago. I can't say who it is for a few more weeks. But he's going back for the holidays with his family. And you want to get this information to the kids so they can go home and mull it over with the people they trust and they love. So I know that's the goal of the league. So hopefully we'll start figuring some of that stuff out too. When they know what they're going to do, then we can figure out who's on our roster or not. So hopefully some of this stuff will get cleared up in the next couple weeks.
Jim Nagy's been our guest. Hey, happy holidays to you. Thanks so much for joining us weekly. We look forward to this again next week.
Yeah, guys. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Appreciate you having me on, and enjoy the family time.
Yeah, man.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you, Jim.
Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Reese's Senior Bowl.
Great title.
No doubt.
Love that title.
No doubt.
Head man in charge. BMOC,
The
Mobile,
guy.
Alabama.
The guy for the Reese's Senior Bowl. Coming up, top headlines, including a Steelers player on defense that's been suspended, and the GOAT at quarterback coming to his defense. Straight ahead, Hotline with Hutton Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement. And today I'm going to continue making that case.
And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke. Deion Sanders is the Donald Trump of football.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only one or two. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that. Second hour is here. Tuesday edition. Hot Bite with Hutton Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network.
Holiday week, Hutton. My kids are out for Christmas vacation. A little bit different around the house. Not having to get up at 6 a.m. to take them to school.
It's great.
That's nice.
6:30 instead.
It's different. It's always different when other people are on Christmas vacation, but you're not. It's that feeling that.
Well, I mean,
being in college was the best. When you got it felt like a month and a half you'd have off for Christmas. Essentially, when Thanksgiving gets there in college, you're pretty much
before
done.
spring semester, yeah.
You come back home for then you go back for like 8 days.
The
then
Christmas
you're back.
break in high school was also lengthy. It's like 2.5 weeks. It felt like.
I feel like I had the one school system that experimented with everything that was awful for me.
Well,
like
it depended on when
I told you about.
The day that Christmas would fall on.
Well,
would also
I feel like
factor
we
in.
got off on like December 22nd was the day that we'd get out.
Really?
It was a very short Christmas break.
We always had a week before, and a week like all the way through New Year's.
To me, it was the college one that was. I mean, you had to readjust to going back to school. Like it felt like a mini
like
summer
moving
break.
back in.
Yeah, you're like, man, I got to really get used to my class schedule again. Should I go out? I don't even know what this building is anymore. It's been so long since I've been in this place, this campus.
I forgot I enrolled in an 8:30 volleyball course.
This group for the speech is going to meet in the library. I don't know where the library is anymore. I need to find that.
Speaking of,
this is pre-Google Maps.
Why is a 1 hour, 1 credit class like volleyball a prereq? Why do you have to have that?
Is it a prereq?
Yeah, it was for me. I had to take volleyball. I did it the last year. Well, not prereq. I had to have 1 hour of.
Oh, you just got to go get 1 hour.
Whatever.
So I think that's just part of your
but just like
it's not humanities, but it's part of your credit system to get hours.
Couple of things. Number one, no one has ever asked me to see. Hey, please present your degree. No one. Number two, no one ever asked me. Hey, did you get that last credit? Did you take that volleyball course? Because you dropped out of the 8 a.m. golf credit freshman year.
I took a class called History of Rock and Roll for 1 hour credit. So, yeah,
that was fun.
It was a lot of fun, and I probably remember more from that class
but I'm thinking, like,
than any other class in
is
college.
there more of a money grab than that?
Yeah.
That requirement. That
also,
well, straight college, too, for that matter.
I am asked so little about my actual degree, and I do have a degree from college.
Yes.
I know that shocks many people, including some of the chat right now that I'll get to momentarily. But I feel like I don't even say the name of my major correctly at times.
You don't have to.
I think that I had a double major, but when I really look back on it, I'm going to have to go see my degree to see what it is. Because I know that I majored in sport management and business administration.
If you have
but
your
I can't
master's,
remember if I had a double major or the business administration was the minor.
If you have your doctor, if you have your whatever, like you're going to present.
But no one's ever asked.
No.
Point being, I've told people, but it's not like an employer's asked what my major was. Just, did you graduate college?
Right.
College is one
Who do you know? Is what I was asking. Who do you know?
Yeah. Well, not only that, all they want to know is employers. Can you show up at a certain place at a certain time and satisfy these qualifications to get a number of hours in to where they can hand you a piece of paper? If you can do that, that's could be 3, could be 4-year process. They want to see that you were able to accomplish those goals and complete each checkpoint along the way. That's all. What you majored in, I really think doesn't matter.
Clay never asked us.
Yeah, unless you're going to go into a specialized. You're an engineer. You're a doctor, you're a lawyer, even lawyer, you're what you major in for before you go to law school does not matter.
And imagine right now, we were sitting like Chad's actually a veterinarian, but he chose to do this.
I would love to come on other OutKick shows and answer veterinarian questions that anyone may have. Happy to answer all vet questions on any show.
Chad, your degree would be a major in recreation and sport management, and then the business administration would be the minor. And I know that because I have the exact same thing.
Okay, that's it. There you go. But I churched it up, Davey. This is like when I told the girls in high school my name was actually Chadwick, thinking they'd like that more than Chad. I tell people double major. So I've been a liar all these years because they ask that. Well, I actually double majored in sport management and business administration. But Davey's right. I had to ask the question because I'm pretty sure it was a minor in business administration.
Yeah.
You spot on.
If only we had a shorter time frame from the Christmas and New Year's break.
But see, Davey took the same degree that I got from Tennessee and went to law school with it and graduated law school but did not become a lawyer. So this again is more evidence it doesn't matter what you major in in your undergrad as to what you're going to do after that.
Chad, what are they saying in the chat?
Oh, I don't know.
You said you want to get to that in a moment?
I'm telling the chat I'll get back to them in a moment.
Oh. You only have a certain amount of time to do
that.
No,
David just said, Chad about to go off on another chat member. I'm not. I had no big issue.
You might as well. I mean,
that was just me calling my shot that I'm going to go back
for
to.
For a limited time, you might as well, Chad.
Oh, I'm saying that someone's going to have some smart-ass response about me.
They will.
Oh, you graduated college? Shocking. Can't believe it. You can read?
Chad can read.
I can read.
No
I've read many books.
That's another question. No one's ever asked me, are you literate? No one's ever asked me that question.
That is something that my grandfather, rest in peace,
yeah.
was pretty close to illiterate. And he grew up in a time where I think he only went to 4th grade. He had to help out on his family farm.
Yeah.
But he had very important jobs where he was like basically the head contractor on sheet metal jobs.
Yeah.
He could build anything. I've told the story. He built my college bunk bed, and it was steel beams, bunk bed. It was really hard to move into the dorm, but he built on his own.
Did you take it out?
Plans,
Did you just leave it?
He just did it. Yeah, I think we did probably just burn it, melt it down, smelted it. But the guy could. I mean, he was not. I don't think he could read. You would hand him something he couldn't just read from. But
yeah,
he had big jobs because he was so good with his hands and so good at building things, and he had a 4th or 5th grade education. And he couldn't sit down and read a book or an entire newspaper article or anything. But I don't think a single person ever asked him the question, hey, before we give you this job in sheet metal, can you read this?
Yeah.
They didn't ever hand him a piece of paper and said, please read this aloud.
Well, it's like
Never
the South Park episode where Randy has to bring his kids in because he's pissed off that they're sitting around. And like, hey, don't you know that this oven door, you need to be able to fix this oven door.
Yeah.
Get your mind right. And he goes, here's how you do it. You pull out your cell phone and you call a repairman. That's what we do now.
That is what we do. It's kind of sad. I wish I was better at. I always feel a true sense of accomplishment when I learn something that I didn't know before, and it's some sort of actual practical skill.
Yeah.
Like if I've repaired something in my house or I've built something in my backyard, there's a true sense of accomplishment.
Quick fix.
But
yeah,
I mean, I'm not going to mess with things like plumbing, HVAC units, like things that I really need to work. I'm going to go to a professional. I'm not going to try to learn those things on my own. I'd much rather have pay someone to come out and tell me that it's fixed.
I can destroy a wall trying to hang a photo.
Yeah.
In a frame. I can destroy a wall.
But you do it.
Yeah.
You still do it.
And then I cover up the hole that I made.
Yeah. As I develop in life, I would like to learn how to do more things. I've learned a lot in my adulthood, but I could always learn more. But there is something to be said for, it goes right back to Christmas break during college. We didn't have Google Maps back then. So if you forgot about your college campus,
we did have
when you got back, you'd
Garmin.
have to go find it on your own.
We did have the Garmin.
That's true. I feel like the first Garmin I received, though, I was probably 24 or 25. So it may have been even after I was in college.
Chad, no gift for Devontae Kazee of the Steelers defensive back, suspended for the remainder of the season by the NFL for forcibly hitting a defensive player's head or neck area with the helmet, face mask, forearm, shoulder. The list goes on and on here, but it's suspended for the final 3 games of the regular season without pay for what the NFL says is repeated violation of rules meant to protect the health and safety of the player. This news came down yesterday. Second quarter is when this took place against the Colts. And staying right on point and on message, as Adam Schefter announced this suspension on social media, Tom Brady responds in the same manner that he has earlier this year and 2 years ago, where he's with Tampa Bay and he's sitting there with Gronkowski doing something for the Bucs website. Here's what he said. Nobody likes seeing players get hurt, but hard hits happen. Quarterbacks should not be throwing the ball in areas where they are exposing their own teammates to these types of hits. Coaches need to coach better. Quarterbacks need to read coverages and throw the ball to the right places, and defenders should aim for the right hitting areas. To put the blame on the defensive player all the time is just flat out wrong. Need better quarterback play. It's not okay, quarterbacks, to get your receivers hit because of your bad decisions. That from Tom Brady in a response to just Schefter posting the quick news that the NFL had released. He's been on point with this. I don't hear many quarterbacks saying this, even after retirement. And he's calling out, in this case, Minshew, for putting his Michael Pittman Jr. into concussion protocol going into the final stretch of the season.
I mean, he definitely believes this. He's been very consistent with this stance and this take on this. I also think we went back into Tom Brady's career. I bet he's lobbied for some sort of late hit or penalty on another player in a defense that hit one of his guys and helped to knock them out of the game.
But certain rules and fines were not into effect then based on this.
I'm also willing to bet that he has thrown the ball in harm's way before.
Sure.
Where his guys gotten hit hard. I just don't. I don't think there's a way to completely avoid it the way Brady makes it sound.
But
you can't be 100% on that where I'm never going to lead my guy into a situation where he's going to get hit hard and jeopardize his future in that game playing it.
Yeah.
There's no way to completely avoid that unless you just go total check down Charlie and you're throwing a ton of incompletions quickly.
But what it wasn't,
he's a little bit hardcore on this point.
But so is the NFL on the opposite end. It is 100% on the defensive player. And in Brady's era, up until the very end, Tampa era, that was a hospital ball. That's how you referred to it. It was emphasis on the quarterback that did that and put his receiver in harm's way. And then it was, the receiver flinched because he felt the pressure. Now there's not even the expectation that you're going to get lit up across the middle.
Now, that was a terrible-looking hit in the Pittsburgh-Indianapolis game that led to the
and he
season,
has been fined
rest of the season
multiple
suspension.
times earlier in the year.
Yeah, and it was more than just that hit. Look, I don't know that he should have been suspended for the remainder of the season, but He looked bad. I mean, we can go back in the history of football, and I think we'd have watched a hit like that in the 80s. But, man, that looks really bad. Whether it would have been a penalty then or not probably wouldn't have been, to Tom Brady's point. But it wasn't good. I don't know that it's the remainder of the season suspension worthy, but definitely wasn't good.
But guys will get fined now, Chad, for, they're trying to go low, and the receiver ends up going low, and it's still helmet to helmet. We see it in college where you get penalized for the helmet to helmet hit, right? The targeting hit. You don't see the suspensions necessarily. It doesn't have to be a certain category.
I think with replay now, I mean, everything is not having to be. It's a fast game, and it's tough to make the calls in full speed, right, when it's happening. But now with the ability to throw the flag or then go back and review it and watch it, I think we can tell intent pretty clearly. I know people think that may be crazy. I don't. You can tell, Hutton, when someone, like you're saying, is trying to go low, then the guy goes lower, and they hit heads, but it was clear he wasn't trying to go for the head on the play. And you can tell when someone has made up their mind, I'm going to knock this guy's block off before it happens, and they're trying to hit someone high. I think with slow motion replay, we can now tell intent on things. I just think officials need to do a good job of making sure, and the league also, when they go back, of looking at it frame by frame, and you can see what the player was trying to do or trying not to do on a play, and then rule it out based on that. Pretty simple to me.
Well, and I think that's why some of the officials, some of the white hats, the referees, bounced last year. Several of them did. Chose to either go to media or back to their day job or retirement, because of the so many rules and regulations now that they have to pinpoint in real time. Because the NFL also wants you to speed this process up. They want the game over in 3 hours and 7 minutes. And for the most part, it's over at about 3:05 to 3:15. And I think they try to do that more after the game, after the penalty's already been assessed, in the fine that could be headed your way. But there is no onus anymore on what's going on the offense. I like Brady's take on that, because he's not saying, he's also including in what he's saying that the defense also is responsible, the defensive player. But by and large, the defensive players tackling, got to lead. You can't lead with your head. You can't have your head down. All these different things. You can't helmet to helmet. All the for the most part, Chad, I think they've adapted pretty well, given the fact of how they were coached in high school and college to now in the NFL with the rules against them. And it's still against them, even the pocketbook.
I think Brady's overall point is well made, and he's made it a number of times. And I agree with that overall point about it's also a lack of good quarterback play that's leading to some of this. I totally agree with that. I think using that logic to apply to this play, I don't think computes the same way, because I think this was a dirty hit. And I think it was a dirty attempt when you go back and slow it down and watch it. I don't think it was a guy trying to hit clean that, the circumstance of the play led to them with a nasty hit. I think he's done it before, and I think he was trying to level a dirty hit, and he got popped for it.
And the thing, too, is NFL fines, the defensive player, especially linebacker and secondary, they're getting popped and fined a lot more than what you're seeing on the offensive side of the football.
Hey, quick news breaking right now. Speaking of DK Metcalf, played at Ole Miss. Ole Miss has their football coach through 2028. Lane Kiffin has signed a contract extension that will take him through 2028 as Ole Miss's football coach. What does that really mean in the grand scheme of things, Hutton? I don't think a lot, right? This is just great to show symbolically that you're lined up for a long time at a school. But as we know with college football coaches, they control everything in the sport. So if Lane Kiffin gets an offer next year, he's going to use that as leverage with Ole Miss, even with this contract extension.
So he signed last year $9 million per year in 2023, and then next year 2024. So I wonder if they get a bump next year by amending this contract.
I'm sure.
Prior to this season, he was making a little over $7 million. They bumped him up to $9 million. Now it's going higher.
I don't think he's taking a pay cut. I'll say that. So he's making some money.
He's not leaving. Should be headed to the college football playoff next year based on the schedule as well. Coming up, John McClain joins us.
gives a rat's ass whether Stephen A. Smith is happy or not? Stephen A. Smith is not happy about the leadership of Steph Curry. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. Stephen A. Smith, until ESPN got all woke and decided we need an African-American face, had been fired from every job. I remember driving into my show, and when he replaced, oh, man, my man, I forget his name, out of D.C. I love the guy. I'm like, this is awful. And then eventually Stephen A. Smith got fired from that job, and I'm like, thank God we can get somebody in here. Well, Stephen A. Smith, because ESPN decided, oh, my God, diversity hire. They hire Stephen A. Smith, and to Stephen A. Smith's credit, he has taken off and ran with it. Good for him. He's done a great job. He's easy to work with by all accounts. His producer ran a porn store. That's true. Had a porn company. But I digress. I don't know if she still is the producer, but one night when everybody got snowed in, I was just having a drink with a couple of guys, and she was sitting there, and they started talking about her porn company, and I was intrigued. Anyway, true story. Next thing you know, Stephen A. Smith played at Winston-Salem. He averaged no points. Smokey Gaines, legendary head coach, had to kick him off because he was such a pain in the ass. But yet somehow, some way, Stephen A. Smith can attack. That's right. He can attack Steph Curry. Now, look, I'm not mad at the premise. I'm not mad at the premise of, look, Golden State Warriors, why don't you do something with Draymond Green? But I am not happy with Stephen A. Smith being the guy. Here's what Smith said. Where's the leadership? Where's he at? What kind of impact is having? That is Stephen. Is he having? That's Stephen A. Smith on Steph Curry. Well, see, this is what you don't do. You don't respond back if you're Steve Kerr, because that is what Stephen A. Smith is dying to have. I told you the story, Eastern Conference Finals, Pacers and the Heat. I think it was. He's walking around trying to look important, and guys are laughing at him because they know he doesn't know jack shit about basketball. So Steve Kerr jumps back. For anyone to question Steph Curry's leadership is actually kind of sickening. Saw some of that yesterday. Disgusting. We're talking about one of the finest human beings that I've ever been around, but that's the climate we live in. We're going to question Steve Curry's leadership. Really? You're going to do that? Think about that. Think about that. And Kerr's not wrong. Look, Stephen A. Smith is a gutless wonder. Stephen A. Smith doesn't have nothing. I mean, he don't have nothing. He's got no basketball chops. You hear him talking basketball on TV. He doesn't know nothing. I mean, he may know something compared to Chimmy O, whatever the hell her name is, or whatever the hell Doris Burke. They may know something compared to those two. But he don't know nothing when it comes to real basketball. He's a fraud. He's a talker. He doesn't know a damn thing. But anyway, Steve Kerr jumped right into it, and that ain't good. We're asking. Steve Kerr said, according to Stephen A. Smith, Steve Kerr didn't mention me by name. I'll mention Steve Kerr by name. Disgusted with him. Oh, good. Be disgusted. No one is questioning Steph Curry as a leader. What we said was, if that was LeBron James, we would have said, where are you? Stephen A. Smith's response, no, he wouldn't have.
Glad you're with us. Stop by with Headed With Where Rolls On across the OutKick network. You can catch us on YouTube now, but starting January 3rd, the only place to catch OutKick's original and fearless shows live. It's going to be on our website, outkick.com. Just click on the Watch tab at outkick.com. Starting January 3rd. Not going to miss a beat. Your one-stop shop for all things OutKick. Outkick.com/watch. John McClain joins us. NFL playoffs just around the corner. Plenty to discuss with the man who has covered the league for nearly 5 decades, plus is a Pro Football Hall of Fame selector. John, good to see you. Merry Christmas to you and the family.
Guys, I'm doing great. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you and all your viewers and listeners.
Same to you, John.
John, how do you feel about the 3-game losing streak for Philadelphia right now, given the fact that they changed play callers on defense in Week 15, which is very unusual for a 10-win team, and the fact that Jalen Hurts is saying, I just don't see the same commitment. Our commitment needs to be better. And he didn't, with a chance to rephrase, he said, I mean what I said. I don't have a dictionary. It's the only way I can explain it.
He didn't know what the word commitment meant, huh? I assume they taught him better when he was growing up in Houston in his English classes. They're struggling. They've got that disease that affects all Super Bowl losers other than New England. You can't find a Super Bowl loser that went back to the Super Bowl the next season since the 90s, other than the Patriots one year. So I'm not sure what it is. You would think that Super Bowl loser would be the hungriest team in the league, and they look to be that. And then now they've been stinking it up big time. They're doing everything they can to let the Cowboys win the division.
And that's huge, Chad, because of the home field advantage that Dallas, they want because they win when they're at Jerry's World.
Yeah, not great right now for the Eagles. Great win for the Texans, John, considering they didn't have their starting quarterback. And they had Case Keenum.
Didn't have starting quarterback, didn't have Will Anderson Jr., the best linebacker, Blake Cashman, right tackle, George Fant, lost their safety, Jimmy Ward, in the first quarter. And it was a gutsy effort. The thing that impressed me the most wasn't Case Keenum or Devin Singletary. It was the run defense on Derrick Henry, who had averaged 203.6 yards and 7.1 a carry in the previous 5 games, 4 of which were more than 200 yards. They had the second most tackles for loss in team history, 12, and it seems like it was all Henry. And I feel bad for him because I saw that stat where he's been hitting the backfield 50% of his carries, which is on the offensive line. But it was a clutch performance by the Texans, who are tied for first place and in the middle of a playoff race. And nobody would have envisioned it back when the season started, when we thought they'd be terrible again.
John, you are a resident NFL historian, and you are a resident Houstonian. That win meant a lot more than just playoff seeding and playoff positioning for the Houston Texans. The Titans going with the Oilers jerseys at home, the troll job, the attempt. You've got Mike Vrabel walking in with the Bum Phillips cowboy hat on, and to win on a walk-off as the overtime clock expires on a 54-yard field goal in Nashville. With all those things going on, just how big of a deal is that in Houston?
You're right, Chad. Like, people here, they were infuriated at all the Columbia blue. They know it was coming, but you had to still see it. The Derrick on midfield, the uniforms, the end zones that said Oilers, a lot of fans wearing the Columbia blue. And then people were so insulted when Vrabel came out wearing the Stetson. And I said, well, he's trying to pay tribute to Bum Phillips, but people didn't take it that way. They thought it was all done. Just, give this to Houston.
Yeah.
And so in that situation, all you can do is win a game. And I suspect when the Titans come here in 2 weeks, they're going to get boos like we've never heard in a stadium. We get a lot of boos a lot. And in the past, recent years, they booed the home team a lot. But that seeing blue just made everybody turn red. And that's why it's made that big victory, considering how shorthanded they were. And, of course, the Titans were shorthanded too. But to pull it out like that, overcome a 13-0 deficit. And I admit, when it was 13-0 and Case Keenum threw that pick 6, I thought, okay, it's going to be like the Jets game, 30-6, and they're going to not win another game. And then they pulled it out. Now they play Cleveland here, Titans here, and at Indy. And my goodness, I still have a hard time believing the Texans are in a playoff race in DeMeco Ryans' first season. But I've never known this city to have a more, rewarding or delicious victory that wasn't playoff clinching or a playoff victory.
John, this would have been a crazy question even a month ago. More likely to get 3 teams in the AFC playoffs, AFC North or AFC South?
Well, if you look at the AFC North, Pittsburgh's terrible. The offense is awful. The Browns, if they beat the Texans, their odds are 99% they're in. The Ravens are going to win. They're going to be in. And then, of course, Cincinnati's been an incredible success story with Jake Browning. So I'm going to say it's more likely the AFC North than the AFC South.
Bengals and Steelers this week. Bengals also have a road game against Kansas City, and then they'll host Cleveland in Week 18. And you mentioned the Colts and Texans will play as well. That's it's quite the Week 18 just for the possibility of getting 3 teams in versus not. The fact that the AFC South has that possibility is stunning.
And I remember last year, Texans played the last game in Indianapolis as they do this year. And last year, Davis Mills threw a touchdown pass, and Lovie Smith went for 2, and he threw the 2-point conversion. And the Texans beat the Colts, and everybody was furious because they cost them Bryce Young. They could have had the first pick and gotten Bryce Young. They were so mad at Lovie Smith. Of course, he got fired after one season, but they were so mad that they won that game. And now they're like, oh, God, thank you so much for Davis Mills' touchdown pass, a 2-point conversion. Now, this game could be really, really big just for opposite reason.
Absolutely. John McClain with us. Just for the quarterback perspective, C.J. Stroud remains in concussion protocol, but they'll work through the week as they prepare for Cleveland. Meanwhile, Trevor Lawrence is also there, and that's a huge factor, not just for making the playoffs across the division, but who could ultimately win the division with all 3 teams we're discussing, Colts, Texans, Jags at 8-6.
Jaguars have the advantage on the tiebreakers. They swept the Colts. They split with the Texans, but they've lost 3 in a row. The Colts, like the Texans, are hot. Texans are 5-2 over the last 7. The Colts are 5-1. And I said this at the start of the year, told you guys a bunch, and I'll say it again. If Anthony Richardson had played, they wouldn't have been in this situation because he had 13 starts at Florida. He could in and out of the lineup. He would have struggled as a rookie. But Gardner Minshew, who was with Shane Steichen in Philly, knew his system. He fit in perfectly. We've seen him as a multi-year starter with the Jaguars as well. That was something that was unfortunate for Richardson, but fortunate for the Colts because they got a chance to go to the playoffs. And right now, the winner of that last game could be Coach of the Year. Could be Shane Steichen or DeMeco Ryans. The Executive of the Year could be Nick Casario or Chris Ballard. So there's a lot at stake. I can't wait to see Sunday because it'll be Joe Flacco turns 39 next month. Great success story. And Case Keenum, who's won 3 games in 4 years. He was 2-0 with the Browns 2 years ago, now 1-0 over the Titans. So you're going to have 38 and 35-year-olds, soon to be 39 and 36, and both of them are having the time of their lives.
John, we talk a lot about and compare jobs in college when coaching jobs come open. We don't do it as much in the NFL because the perception is you get one of those 32 jobs, it's a big deal, right? And you don't nitpick between them a lot of times if you have that opportunity. I want to nitpick a little bit right now because there's 2 jobs open in the same division. We know what happened when the Raiders played the Chargers on Thursday Night Football, right? Blowout for the Raiders. But when you look at both jobs, everything considered, market, fan base, ownership, quarterback, everything involved with both jobs. Which one is more desirable, Chargers or Raiders, with both those being open right now?
Chargers, because you have Justin Herbert as a quarterback. He's signed. You're going to have him a long time. And as you guys know, you get that franchise quarterback, you can build around him. And if they play at SoFi Stadium, they're always going to be the poor old stepchildren there, but it's in L.A. Families love it there. They've got talent on defense. They got some talent on offense at skill positions. Where the Raiders with Mark Davis, you never know what's up his sleeve and how he comes to his decisions. He hired Josh McDaniels, then Ziegler, and then fired both of them. There was talk he wanted to bring back John Gruden. That's not happening. And they don't, maybe Aiden O'Connell is their quarterback. I don't know. I'm guessing he's not. But they got a lot more questions. They don't have the talent that the Chargers do. Brandon Staley just done a terrible job as a head coach because defense was his baby. And defense has been his problem. And he did an injustice to Justin Herbert. And that's why he's gone. So I would think of those two jobs, give me the Chargers.
What's up with the speculation? And just and Peter King's not writing this unless he's hearing this, John, that Mike Tomlin is being evaluated after this season based on their recent collapse. After 16 seasons and the fact we've never seen a losing season from him, all of a sudden he's on the hot seat, according to what is being discussed behind the scenes?
Well, he played that really way down when he just threw it out there. I think it's because their offense is terrible.
Yes.
And they're wasting their defense. They're blowing big games. They've been beat up by the AFC South. And so I would imagine Tomlin's going to be right there, but he's going to have sweeping changes on his offense. And I can't imagine, they got a lot of confidence in Kenny Pickens. They're just good enough every year not to get a franchise quarterback. Big Ben kept falling and falling and falling and fell right into their laps, and they weren't looking for a quarterback, so that's how they got him. But they need somehow to just have a totally different philosophy on offense. They got players like George Pickens, who was a problem at Georgia, and that guy is so selfish, guys that dog it. They need to get rid of some players too.
We'll get a couple of thoughts from you on some big games this weekend. Christmas Eve, Cowboys in Miami. Your thoughts on Dallas on the road after what we just saw in Buffalo?
Well, how can we pick the Cowboys to win a big game against a good team on the road? I'm not going to start now. Buffalo manhandled them, embarrassed them, did it with the running game. The Dolphins have a great running game. They also have an even better passing game. I'm going with Miami.
Ravens and 49ers, fascinating from the quarterback perspective in the MVP race. And this is in San Francisco. This is Christmas night on Monday Night Football. Your thoughts there?
No, I'm sticking with the 49ers. They're the best team in football. I watched the Ravens the other night, and they're exciting. They can run the ball, and they throw it. Even though Lamar Jackson's not having a great season statistically, he's making big plays. Their defense has been fantastic, but so are the 49ers. 49ers have more playmakers. I'm going with the 49ers in what could be a Super Bowl preview.
What do you make of the turnaround by Buffalo, Josh Allen and company, and now they've made it through this difficult stretch? The home stretch seems to be relatively favorable. We've also seen bad teams beat good teams and ruin some hopes and dreams. But I right now would want to be playing Buffalo.
Nobody wants to play the Bills. And they're coming off that big high of just humiliating the Cowboys. They're poised for a letdown. And the best thing about that victory of the Cowboys, Josh Allen didn't throw for 100 yards, and they did a great job running with James Cook, who also was a great receiver. Right now, Buffalo's behind Houston. Houston's the first wild card looking into the playoff picture, and Buffalo's behind them. So it's a great race. It's a great race in both conferences. And even though the best team's at the top, San Francisco's the best team. Baltimore's number 2. Of course, I want Baltimore to win since I picked them before the season. But I think the AFC has better teams top to bottom in the playoffs than NFC, but they're both great races. I love crunch time of December.
And the AFC East is still up for grabs. And that's a big game with Dallas on the road against Miami, while Buffalo continues to play very well. John McClain, always great to have you on the show. Merry Christmas to you, and look forward to next week.
Jonathan and Cadillac, Merry Christmas to you guys and your family as well, and to all your listeners and all your viewers. Thank you.
Merry Christmas, John.
Christmas,
Same to you. Same to you and yours. Thank you.
SportsRadio610.com is where you can read all of his great work and watch all of the great content, listen to podcasts and more. Love having him on. You can follow him on social at McClain_on_NFL. Coming up, we have On the Bus, Off the Bus. We'll see where we're going across the country, Chad. Quarterback discussion, MVP discussion, and a lot more.
Plenty to get into here. Some good selections that we're going to be possibly jumping off the bus more than jumping on some of these.
Probably. That's straight ahead. Hotline with Hutton with her Wolves on across the OutKick Network.
What would you spend on an engagement ring?
I'm not an engagement ring type of person. But if she wanted a ring, I'd probably spend like 20 on it.
20 what? 20,000. That's a lot of money.
You don't get that lady a real answer. No, for real. Ain't it how much you make though?
Price, I didn't really care. Size, absolutely. Had to be big enough it could be seen, and I didn't want like a basic ring. I wanted like eclectic, like vintage looking. Okay. So we did a custom order to do my ring.
I didn't have a preference. I just had a gold preference, and he kind of took it from there.
And you trusted him. Did he crush it?
Oh yeah, he crushed it.
I've been spoiled thus far, and so I don't think I could ever go back from what I received last time.
Okay, so high standards. That's good. What are the standards?
Okay, it was 5 carats.
Okay.
And it was beautiful.
Mine was way too expensive.
What's way too expensive?
Like $45,000.
Okay. Wow. You probably went with a real diamond.
Very much so, yeah.
Do you think that that's kind of a flex for the guy? Like, is the engagement ring, is the engagement ring only for the girl, or do you get to watch other people look at your girl's ring?
Solely for the girl. Solely for the girl.
You don't get any enjoyment?
Couldn't care less.
Do we think gender roles are a thing of the past, or we should bring them back?
I feel like it depends on certain things, but I feel like now it's like a teammate. Like that should be your partner, your teammate. Like I'm not cleaning all the house all the time because I'm not your mom.
I agree. We're double income, no kids, so I really like a partnership, but I don't want to take the trash out.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to do that.
She takes the kids, I provide. Very traditional.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that more young people should do that?
Yes, very much so.
What is it about like a motherly quality that you like?
It's worked for thousands of years and it still works today.
I like being girly. I'm a girl and I like being girly, so I like traditional gender roles.
Okay, well, according to the 7 Hermetic principles, one of those being the law of gender, gender manifests on all levels, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, all levels. Throughout the cosmos, there's gender. I don't know, it's a lie. It's a book I read called The Supreme Way of Men or Women or something like that, and it spoke on how whether it's 2 women or 2 men, there still has to be someone who's masculine, someone who's feminine.
My friend, do you know what Riz means?
Yeah, Riz is like, it's like game. You know what game is? Like when you're trying.
I don't have any, but I know what it is.
It's like the new word for game. So meaning like you're able to speak well and get, a date kind of.
I do not.
Do you have any guess?
I could guess.
What do you think?
It's like, I don't know, razzle dazzle. I don't know.
Kind of. Actually, you're not too far off. Charisma.
Riz, charisma. I've been able to talk someone up.
Did you read that online, or did you already know what that meant?
I'm on TikTok way too much.
Okay, another word that has become very popular this year. Do you know what mentee B means?
I don't know any of this stuff. I'm not on social media. I don't know any of it.
What about mentee B? Do people use the word mentee B in real life?
What is that?
You don't know mentee B?
I've never heard of mentee B.
A mental breakdown?
What?
Mentee B.
A mental breakdown.
Oh, you have a mentee B. I never know it. But I like that. I didn't know that, but I like that.
Mentee B, is that like that chocolate mint thing?
What does mentee B mean?
I have no idea. I don't know what that is. Mentee B, you ever heard?
You don't know mentee B?
I've never heard mentee B. Never in my life.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hot Mike with Head and Withrow rolls on. Check out the new and improved OutKick store. It is live right now at OutKick.com. Head over there, stock up on golf polos, t-shirts, hats, and more. Shop.OutKick.com.
I'm going to buy Matt McCloy that Toxic Masculinity is Hot shirt at some point.
Well,
away gift for Matt McCloy.
I don't know if he would like it because he already has one.
That's true.
He
had to go schmedium on that shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, like we've offered. Chad will personally fold the shirt for you? He'll wash it and dry it and make it a medium?
No one's taken me up on it yet. I'm here. Look, I am here to serve. Okay, that was my mantra when I worked at Polo Ralph Lauren. And it'll be my mantra now. I'm here to serve. I will fold that shirt for you.
DJ Moore is serving the best interest of Justin Fields. He's on board with, you know what, don't draft a quarterback. Bring back Justin Fields over whatever prospect the Bears may be looking at it. The potential number 1 overall pick, they have Carolina's selection. They also have their own in the first round.
I mean, what is he supposed to say, though?
Well,
I see this and I think, is he really?
He could also say nothing.
But if he no comments, is he answering a question? I read the quote where he says, bruh, are you watching what's going on out there?
And Fields is playing well. Also, DJ Moore is not getting enough touches.
No, I agree with that.
They're not feeding him the football enough.
No, he's very good.
Here's the other thing. DJ Moore doesn't want a rookie quarterback in there because he's wasting another year getting the rookie up to speed, and then you're going into year 2 with higher expectations. You're pushing everything. This next year should be a year where everything is in place. That should have been this year. Should have been last year. I mean, just start looking around. They have done a disservice to the offense based on what they've done. Traded for Chase Claypool. No longer there. Trade for DJ Moore, who has been good when, again, it's as if Arthur Smith's calling plays. Because Arthur Smith doesn't want to get the ball in the best hands of his offense, the best players. 4th overall pick and 2 8th overall picks. And for whatever reason, they're combining for like 30 yards this past Sunday. 70 yards, excuse me. So, averaging 30 each.
I don't have the question that was asked, but it was something about rookie quarterbacks coming into the league, Hutton. And the exact quote was, bruh, where are y'all seeing this? Like, what makes him not the quarterback for the Bears right now? I get y'all got everybody coming out. What? It's like 2 of them? I don't think they're better than Justin. If he said anything other than something along those lines, that would be really dumb of him to say. Now, I guess you could just not say anything at all, but by not saying anything at all, you're giving your answer.
But endorsing it is something that we haven't heard the Bears say.
No, but his teammates, I mean.
Sure.
Look, it would be a huge story if DJ Moore said, you know who looks good? That Drake May kid. I really like him for the Bears quarterback. I'd rather be catching passes from him right now than this stiff out here, Justin Fields. That would be newsworthy. I just don't see this as, if he said anything other than an endorsement of his quarterback, which, Hutton, you're right, has played better as of late, it would be crazy for him to say anything other than that.
Even last season when they sucked, Fields kept them in close ball games for what that's worth. I'm
not sold on the guy, but
I really like him. Look, he's got to cut down on some of the picks, but he's thrown 8 picks, 16 touchdowns, I believe. And, they're early in the year, they weren't even running him. Forcing him to be the pocket passer. The Getsy move, I just don't understand what's going on there. There's going to be a new head coach there. The general manager didn't draft him. I get that. I'm also on board with what DJ Moore is saying.
Well, this leads us perfectly into on the bus, off the bus with our first discussion point. Yeah.
It's just crazy how that happens, how we start the conversation in Chicago and then the first location's in Chicago.
Look at that. Amazing. And then also crazy that Davey looks like a member of the Blues Brothers, a big-time Chicago blues band, when he comes on with us. With the black and then the black glasses. Looks good.
Dan Aykroyd. Okay, guys. Let's see
Davey
here.
Aykroyd.
Old Danny.
Justin Fields is the Bears starting quarterback next season.
Yeah, I think he is. I do not love Justin Fields to the level that Hutton does, but I do think that he has shown enough that he is going to be back and be the starter for the Bears. Does that make me overly confident as a Bears fan? Does that get me really excited? It does not if I'm a Bears fan, but I think he's the better option right now. I think they're going to give him another look. I do think that the organization has failed him for the most part.
Yes. There's going to be a new head coach there, we all believe. Here's the other thing, too. What's the contract status of Justin Fields? And are you wanting to pony up with Justin Fields, or are you wanting to get another rookie on a rookie deal on how you build your team with 2 first-round picks? You trade down if you have the number 1 pick again, and you end up getting more first-round picks, again, I stick with Justin Fields. I don't know what they're going to end up doing because, again, the contract's going to play a factor in all of this. Right now, his contract expires after next season, but now he's eligible for that contract extension. And if he's your guy, they're going to end up having to pay him the same way we saw other quarterbacks get paid. I'm looking at like a Kyler Murray type contract, which hasn't worked out for Arizona. I think that plays a factor in what they end up doing. But what I wouldn't do, I mean, what we're really talking about, Chad, do you want Justin Fields or Caleb Williams? I want Justin Fields.
Oh, between the two, I want Justin Fields. Now, if you ask me, do I want Drake May or Justin Fields?
What do we think the Bears will take?
A little bit tougher of a decision. They're going to take Justin Fields.
No, or I'm saying
if they're number one pick, they would end up taking Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see if they could get another young playmaker like they did whenever they traded with Carolina and was able to get DJ Moore as a part of that.
Hey, and the other factor, real quick, what's Jim Harbaugh want? He's ultimately going to make that call.
For the Bears?
Yeah. He's the next head coach of the Chicago Bears.
I think it's going to be the Patriots head coach.
Well, guys, another location where there is some conversations about the hot seat for the coach. We're going to head on over to Pittsburgh, and the Steelers will lose their final 3 games of the season.
Off the bus on this. They should, based on the way they're playing and the way these 3 teams have played as of late and what we've seen from both of them. They're going to find a way. I'm a believer in Mike Tomlin. Has not looked good as of late. I think they rally, probably beat Cincinnati at home this weekend. They're going to win at least one of these 3 games. So I believe in Mike Tomlin enough that he's going to get this team to rally to win at least one more out of 3 tough games.
I am on the bus with this idea, Davey, because of the quarterback change they just made. They're now going to their 3rd string guy.
Mason Rudolph, not a believer?
Well, to me...
Could he start for the Bears next year?
Sure. There's a lot of backups that start for the Bears next year. I'm looking at it from this perspective. Right now, they're like picking 16th or 17th. That's too low to go get a quarterback. So, do you want... They're already losing well. You didn't have to change quarterbacks to continue to do that. The spark, you're going to Seattle. Seattle's going to be in a playoff race. They're playing Baltimore that could be battling for the number 1 overall seed. It may already be locked up. Cincinnati's still in the playoff mix as well. Pittsburgh's not. I don't see a great matchup given the fact that they're already kicking aside what we've seen from Trubisky and they're moving on to Rudolph. I think they lose out.
Okay. Kind of in line with you.
They're averaging 15 points per game, too.
Can't beat the 2 worst teams in the NFL. I don't know what you're going to be able to do with all 3.
Davey, big anti-Mike Tomlin guy. Wants him out. Thinks he should have been out 7 years ago.
No, not 7 years ago, but I do think there's something to staying at a program for too long or a franchise too long. Sometimes you just need to.
What was the old? Remember Kevin O'Neal, the old basketball coach, the 5 and dive? Was his mantra? Like he never stayed anywhere past 5 years. That's as most you can be somewhere. Then you got to move on and go somewhere else to start anew.
Yeah, except in Pittsburgh, where it's
they like to keep their guys for a while.
I get it. I commend the ownership for doing that, but at a certain point,
they've had 3 head coaches since 1969.
Now, if it does happen, that is one hell of an intriguing hire. Whoever is next for Pittsburgh, based on that longevity, considering Noel, Cowher, Tomlin, and then are you gonna have someone else for close to 20 years after that?
It's just
gonna be interesting.
Yeah, for me, it's just hard to rationalize having a coach not win a playoff game for 8 years and continue to be the head coach at a NFL franchise.
He's 169 and 102 in his career in Pittsburgh. Chuck Noll was 193, 148 and 1.
Someone brought this up yesterday. He's won 63% of his games, and they said, "Well, Buffalo fired Marv Levy. Anyone can be fired." I'm like, Marv Levy won 55% of his games as a head coach. This guy over 16 years has won 63% of his games.
Hey, but this to me is just a crack in the armor because we saw that with Jeff Fisher towards the end. It was a question of is the GM going to win? Is the head? There's something going on there. But there's not necessarily something that's happening this offseason.
I am not arguing that everything is perfect at all. There's something up. And when I watch George Pickens' effort, that's the thing that gives me more concern than anything, that they can't lose that identity under him. So I'm with you on that.
Go get Bruce Arians to call your plays again.
Guys, we're going to head on down to Atlanta, and we're going to stay in the conversation of coaching hires, fires. But the Falcons are bringing Arthur Smith back for next season.
I'm off the bus on this. Barring total collapse, it's happening. They lost to Carolina. They're the worst team in the NFL by far. I don't know they're going to win another game. And if that happens, he's gone. That's total collapse, right?
Yes, that's a total collapse. Well, also a collapse is I can't figure out why he doesn't want to get the ball in the hands and force feed. Bijan Robinson
and
Drake London and Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
They combined for 75 yards from scrimmage this past week against Carolina. 75 yards combined for those three guys. That is the fourth loss for Atlanta when they have led in the fourth quarter. Since November, that's collapse. And this offense, with those three playmakers that they've invested in, they average 18 points per game. That's near the bottom of the NFL and what is a bad year for NFL offense. All that to say, yeah, I could see him being out. And I don't understand it because we saw him force feed A.J. Brown as the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans, as well as have a 2,000-yard rusher in Derrick Henry, as well as have a 500-yard tight end receiving group. And Jonnu Smith ends up getting a massive contract off of it. He found his playmakers as the play caller. And now he's switching to the backup quarterback again in Taylor Heineke. And it may be too little too late, but the switch is coming because Desmond Ridder is not the guy. And Heineke has been known for being a guy that has created a spark in Washington. And this is a season where backups are all of a sudden all the rage and all the talk. Heineke's got to be much better than Desmond Ridder. And Arthur Smith's got to be better at getting the football to these guys if he wants to keep his job.
He's a fantasy football manager's worst nightmare.
That's well said by Hutton.
Let's head on down to Jacksonville, guys. And the Jaguars.
That's something I never want to do is head on down to Jacksonville. The worst city in the NFL is Jacksonville, Florida. But let's go there anyway.
Right now, the Jags have the tiebreaker for the AFC South and winning that division. I'm here to say the Jaguars do not win the AFC South.
I'm off the bus. I still think they find a way to win it. And this is more not being a believer in what the Texans are right now, what the Colts are. I mean, if I had to pick one that's going to win it other than Jacksonville, it may be Indianapolis with Gardner Minshew. But I think Jacksonville finds a way to rally and win the division.
Of the other two teams you just mentioned, which one's going 3-0? Because I'm here to tell you, Jacksonville's winning the AFC South because two of their three games, the final two of the season, are against Carolina and against the Tennessee Titans.
Yep, there you go.
Jacksonville's winning the AFC South. Meanwhile, the Colts and Texans have to match up head-to-head. Jags have the Buccaneers this week, probably without Trevor Lawrence. And that'll be his first start missed, correct? I don't think he's missed a start.
No, he hasn't.
And
I was shocked when he didn't take the cart and he walked off or got carried off the field and played the next week.
But I'm saying like from high school, college, ever, except for about COVID games maybe.
All right, guys, and finally, we're going to go out to Las Vegas. Do you like Las Vegas better than Jacksonville, Chad?
Much better.
Okay.
Much better option.
Well, we'll end there. And, I mean, the last time we saw this team take the field, they managed to get a coach fired. The Raiders will promote Antonio Pierce as the next head coach.
Jacksonville is known as the Vegas of North Florida. Antonio Pierce is going to be the head coach of the Raiders.
Wow.
I'm on the bus. They're going to keep him.
Off the bus. Off the bus.
They're going to keep him.
He's
got smoking cigars.
They're going to go big. Going to spend way too much money on the next head coach out in Las Vegas. Just
Jim
like
Harbaugh,
on the previous two times.
Bring him on. Kirby Smart to the Raiders. Heard it here first.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement, and today I'm going to continue making that case. And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke. Deion Sanders is the Donald Trump of football.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, final hours here on the Tuesday edition, Hot Mike with Hunter Withrow across the OutKick network. Coming up, SEC Mike will join us. A lot of discussion about...
Mike in studio today, or is he Zoom? Zoom?
On Zoom?
Yeah.
He'll be in his podcast studio.
I thought about asking that during the break and then
SEC
forgot about it and had to
podcast.
ask it on air. But he's always good, whether he's on Zoom or in studio.
Absolutely. Transfer portal, Ole Miss is crushing it somehow.
You're going to see a lot of helmets behind him. That's what I know
A
about
lot.
Mike.
Or in front of him.
It's all in front. That's right.
That's right. Pageantry.
Can't wait for that.
Pageantry.
It's all about pageantry. It's like the CBS college football theme personified.
Yes.
Is SEC Mike.
Except it's not going to the Big Ten. He's not Big Ten
Mike, I give you permission to use that as the new title of your podcast.
Yeah.
The SEC theme song personified is me.
The visual theme song.
SEC Mike. If you heard the visual version of that audio is watching Mike sitting behind a throne of every SEC helmet. That's what it is.
The new and improved OutKick store finally live. You can stock up on golf polos, T-shirts, hats, and more. Shop.outkick.com. That's shop.outkick.com. Tommy DeVito. How about this? The back and forth.
Cutlets.
There's a pizzeria.
It sounds delicious, by the way, this pizzeria.
His appearance feed is not. So
the name of this pizzeria just has me excited for pizza. I'm
the
wanting
back
pizza
and
here.
forth here is amazing. So he was set to appear at this pizzeria But the pizzeria has canceled the event because of the cost. Because as they say, and they have provided screenshots of said text messages.
Caniglio's Old Fashioned Pizzeria.
That you're right. It does sound delicious.
Does that not make you hungry just hearing that?
So they've canceled his appearance, Chad, because he doubled, or his agent, Sean Stellato, doubled the appearance fee from $10,000 for 2 hours to $20,000. And the pizzeria said it couldn't afford to host Tommy DeVito at that price, so they canceled the event. To which Stellato, his agent, said, well, nothing was in writing. Nothing was in writing. And then they show the screenshot sent to Darren Ravel of said text from Stellato to the pizzeria, where he says, okay, please modify the agreement. I think the 30 minutes over is something that I'm going to have to run past Tommy. At 60-40 split might work. Good on the 2 hours, $10K, $250. $250 meaning 250 autographs. Doubling the appearance fee based on the victory over Monday Night Football, which, by the way, is where the agent also became well-known. That's steep.
Well, it's Stellato, the agent, also. I don't know if you've seen this circulating. He was a wide receiver at Marist College, and there's photos of him in 1998 with frosted tips as a receiver at Marist that have circulated from his playing days, which is hilarious. There is and I want to know who posted it on X, but someone had the perfect post where it was a picture of Sean Stellato with the phone and the fedora on the sideline, and the only caption, the quote was, "The price just went up," on that when he was on the phone with someone. And I'm thinking, this is perfect, because the price actually went up on Caniglio's Old Fashioned Pizzeria after that win. He may have actually been upping the price on this one.
How about Caniglio's, who posts this New York Giants update? Only posted this because I had a few people ask me at the farmer's market today, and I'm receiving DMs about it, so here we go. No, Tommy DeVito will not be at Caniglio's this Tuesday as originally planned. After last week's win, we received word from his agent that his appearance fee would be doubling.
So good.
We are a small family-run business and decided $20,000 was a bit steep for 2 hours. Apologies to anyone who had already purchased a ticket. Anywho, as I have never been one to cry over spilt milk, let's instead be positive and throw back to a couple of years ago where Nino taught the incredible Eli Manning how to make pizza. Sorry about that. P.S. Sorry about that loss today, New York
A
Giants
great
fans.
photo of Eli Manning with the family owning the pizzeria.
Sorry about that loss today, Giants fans, but we're Italian too and don't like when someone says one thing and does another. Well said.
Very well said.
And then sending in the confirmation that came from the agent about changing the price.
I don't know. Look, I'm not going to hold this
which he
against.
denied,
I will
said
not.
He didn't sign anything.
I will not hold this against Tommy DeVito, because this was an agent decision.
Sure.
And Tommy DeVito gets dragged through the mud for this because his agent is, quite frankly, being a little bit of a prick about everything, right? And it's his right. He's trying to get as much money as he can for himself.
He's looking like he does in the photo, holding the phone.
The price just went up. That's what he's telling everybody.
Yep.
On Tommy DeVito.
The stereotype.
This makes me want to go to this pizzeria even more. There's the photo of Sean Stellato at Marist. Look at the barbed wire Goldberg-like tattoo on the bicep, the upper bicep, with the frosted tips is terrific. And then, as you can see on the bottom, that is the caption of "Price just went up."
You think that was the temporary tattoo, or?
Oh no, I think
WWE sold those
the
back
real
in the day,
deal.
or WCW did, brother.
I think that's the real deal. That is not a henna tattoo at all. This makes me want to go to Caniglio's Old Fashioned Pizzeria even more. I feel like flying to New York and then renting a car and driving out to this place to have pizza after this whole story. They handled it beautifully. And I love as Italians, we don't like when people say one thing and they do another.
Well, his Stellato, the agent, was inducted into a Hall of Fame recently. And then he wore his jacket, his Hall of Fame jacket, to the next game for the Giants. He was inducted into the National Italian American Sports Hall of Fame at what was described as a lavish ceremony in Chicago, alongside Priscilla Presley and Pittsburgh Steelers great Franco Harris.
How? Why? His play at Marist? His work as an agent?
I guess.
I'm confused as to why.
He was recently honored by the Boston Italian Consulate where he's wearing a vest with a turtleneck, a white turtleneck, black slacks, and
it sounds like
an orange hat.
If you donate enough money to the Hall of Fame, you get in, maybe? Is that the deal?
I don't know. I don't know I don't know.
I mean, he's making a hell of a lot of money off pizzerias, family-owned, all over the Northeast. So that money could go back to a Hall of Fame to get inducted.
Yeah. I mean, he joins a Hall of Fame list that includes Vince Lombardi, Mario Andretti, Joe DiMaggio, and Dan Marino. Now, Sean Stellato.
Do you think that his bust at the Hall of Fame is just him on the phone in the fedora?
I mean,
do they change it to that?
Talk about overnight sensation, man.
Either way, I want Caniglio's old-fashioned pizzeria. That's what I want right now after hearing this story.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And it's Tommy DeVito that garners all the attention. He's represented a handful of other NFL players, but, I mean, at the time, you would consider them more well-known than Tommy DeVito. Not anymore.
We have people we work with that live in Jersey. I now want to get full analysis of this place and how good it is.
Oh, I bet some have tried it or heard of it.
By the way, I just got
Eli
word
Manning's
that
there, right?
Tommy DeVito's agent is going to be on with Dan Dockich tomorrow on Don't At Me at 8:40.
Okay, there you go.
So I would implore Dan to ask about this pizzeria.
What will he be wearing, Chad?
I want him to wear like a knitted vest with the Italian flag on it. This is what I'd like to see. Like something that his grandmother knitted for him, but it's just one giant Italian flag.
Look at this pizza.
Is this the place?
This is
guys?
the place.
It's Caniglio's? Wow.
King of pies. I would say so.
That
this looks like the size
incredible.
of a pizza that you would be challenged to finish. And if you do, you get your name on the wall.
Yeah. Man versus food style.
Yeah, Chad could do it.
There are some of those challenges that I look at and I think, this is eminently doable on that show. And other ones I see and I'm thinking, no human could do this. Because when it's the time, if there's a long period of time you could do it, then you can pull it off. But some of these, when it's like, finish all this in 15 minutes, I'm thinking, no way. No way can anyone pull this off.
No, I certainly could not. I could help you eat a slice or two.
No, Hutton would take the lettuce, the seed. Excuse me, I would like to know about your seed challenge.
By the way, this
do you have a quinoa challenge over here or no?
Yeah, the size of the pizza, like so what are you getting for $20,000? 250 autographs. He's going to be there. How many pizzas are you selling for that?
I mean, you're taking a loss just to say,
but
just to get the photo up,
even at
and
10,
to have the night with Tommy DeVito, you're going to take
2
the
hours,
loss on it.
2 hours, 250.
You want the photos,
autographs.
the videos for
You're
social.
selling,
all that.
They're selling the tickets too. It sounds like
You're basically buying the advertisement, right, of him being there and taking photos of everyone that works there and doing all that. Allie looked it up. Priscilla Presley was awarded the Tommy Lasorda Humanitarian Award by the National Italian Sports Hall of Fame. She said, I was too confused by that to not Google it as to why Priscilla Presley
Along
was
with
in
Franco
the Italian-American.
Harris,
Well, the Franco Harris we can understand.
Well,
but Priscilla Presley, I was confused on that one.
But again, like the list, I'm sure they're always making these. They're making the exceptions, right?
There are people making.
Oh, it's a green jacket, by the way. It's like a hunter green jacket, which he had matching slacks for, of course, on the sideline this past weekend.
You know what I did the other day when I had kidney stones? We talked about the other day, that morning. It was about a 3.5, 4 hour touch and go process where I was in a ton of pain, hoping to pass them
Kidney stone
before
Hall of
coming
Fame?
to the show. I'm in the Nephrology Hall of Fame after the way I passed this kidney stone like
You
a
are.
damn champion is what I did with that
Power
kidney
through.
stone. But you know what I watched the whole time? Because it just happened to me. I rarely do this where I don't put it on anything streaming. I just turn it to a channel.
Yeah.
Happened to be flipping through the channels or going through the guide, and HBO had a Rocky marathon on. So I feel like I'm well-versed in Italian culture now. I watched the last half of Rocky, pretty much all of Rocky 2, while passing a kidney stone in pain. And Hutton, I'm very well-versed in Rocky 3 and Rocky 4, Clubber Lang, Thunder Lips, and Rocky 3 played by Hulk Hogan, Rocky 4, the Von Drago. We all know about Tommy Gunn in Rocky 5. I've only seen Rocky Balboa maybe twice, which is Rocky 6, which I believe was in 2005 or 2006. I recorded it, and I'm going back and watching that now. That was on later there. That was like during our show or that night, but I saw the marathon.
So now you're invested again
so
to
I
finish
hit record on Rocky Balboa, and now after learning about Caniglio's Old Fashioned, I want to go and watch Rocky Balboa. That's what I want to do.
You think they have an old-fashioned there that
I don't want to pass another kidney stone.
No, you don't.
I don't want to recreate that, but I will watch Rocky Balboa.
But apparently it helps you do that if you
and
watch
eat a
Rocky.
slice of good pie.
Helps you do that if you watch Rocky.
Well, I remember like the worst moments of the kidney stone passing and what time it was during the Rocky 2 that I was watching it. It was right around the time where
Was it a very good part? Or?
No, it was right around the time where Gazzo was trying to recruit him back to be a thumb breaker for the Italian mob.
Oh, so you
remember Gazzo was a big help to Rocky when he was really down on his luck hunting. Then he tried to bring him back to break thumbs again for him. And Rocky, trying to start a family with Adrian, didn't want to do that.
Can you tie that into
go
passing the kidney stone? You were down. You were down and out.
I was down and out too.
You didn't
I
break some
understand what
thumbs.
Rocky's,
or other things.
Finances can be a problem, much like in Rocky Balboa's life. And Rocky, at the end of Rocky 1, he said, "Look, there's not going to be a rematch." That's what both him and Apollo Creed said to each other because they beat the hell out of each other so much. And that's how he felt. That's how I felt when the kidney stone was passing. But you know what happened? They had a rematch. That's the way I felt an hour later when it had passed and I was ready to go. Now I tied it all in.
And then he ends up at work the same day.
Now it all makes sense.
What doesn't make sense is the back and forth with Zach Wilson this past week. He's pulled from the game. This was leading up to the press conference with Saleh, Chad, where it's, does he want to play? Did he not want to? And he's like, no, if Zach Wilson didn't want to play, we wouldn't be playing him. He wouldn't be starting. So then he apparently leaves the game for hydration purposes. Not out there to begin the third quarter. But his mom is now saying, well, and he's in concussion protocol. He's pulled in a 30 when the game was 30-0. His mom's now saying that he was hiding concussion symptoms during all of this. And now he's going through and fighting through concussion protocol.
So
this whole thing has been odd.
Yeah, maybe the PR person heard that he was saying he was dehydrated, and that's how
Which
they
he could be. He
reported
could
that.
also be getting an IV. That's understand. If he's hiding the concussion symptoms, he could also be getting the IV, saying he feels dizzy or whatever. But hiding that is, first off, there are more and more players now that are reporting symptoms. But just knowing how the whole week went, the saga of it's strange that it started with him not wanting to play, and then he's hiding concussion symptoms to play, hypothetically. And then he's pulled when it's 30-0.
It feels like an overcorrection in that they know about that report that came out that he didn't even want to play or he was considering not playing. That, remember, the Jets and others had to come out and say, not true.
But he got hit in the head again, and he had blurred vision, and that's when he reported his symptoms. You see what I'm saying? That could have been really bad.
Yeah, it's a weird story. It feels like an overcorrection from the family of, this is how much this guy cares, right? He's fighting through concussion symptoms, and he was lying about it. It may be true, but it feels like an overcorrection.
I think Aaron Rodgers has played a key factor in him sticking with this the way he has.
By the way, Aaron Rodgers came out today and said...
And why he's playing.
On McAfee, I don't know if you saw this, and this was about an hour ago, but he said, I'm not playing because I'm not 100%. He says being cleared to play is not the same as being 100%. If I were 100%, I'd play, but I'm not. And that was his clarification.
Well,
not anything to do with the playoff positioning.
He
or lack thereof.
That's certain. That's a factor, though.
Yeah,
that's the factor. He would play if he's 80%. I believe that he would play at 80% if they're
right
were in the
mix
heart
and
of
they were doing.
Yes.
Yeah, he would want to get in there,
no doubt. And he shouldn't play if they're out of the playoffs. He should not step foot on the field. Should not be activated.
No, he knows that.
And he's got the deadline coming up. So yeah, he knows that. The team knows that. We've all known.
But I think it's another attempt by him to say, I'm not just opting out because the season's not going well. I'm not trying to be that guy about it. I'm just not 100%. So it's one thing to get back to where you're medically. He said something along the lines of, it's one thing to get back to be medically cleared to play.
Yeah.
It's another thing to be 100% and ready to play. And this would be the fastest ever. Let that happen.
I can't wait for the off-season discussion with Aaron Rodgers again.
Oh,
and the Jets.
Absolutely. You know what also I'd like to know with the Zach Wilson story? What did Zach Wilson's mom's friends have to say about this, knowing Zach Wilson and his history? That is the question.
Administering hydration and IVs.
I'd love to get their comments on the mom's side of this.
Yeah, the hangover IVs and things. Helps you. Helps you get back on the field, too.
Think about it.
Coming up, SEC Mike joins us. Transfer portal, bowl games, playoff matchups, and more.
depends on certain things, but I feel like now it's like a teammate. Like that should be your partner, your teammate. Like I'm not cleaning all the house all the time because I'm not your mom.
I agree. We're double income, no kids, so I really like a partnership, but I don't want to take the trash out.
Yeah.
So he's gonna have to do that.
She takes the kids, I provide. Very traditional.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you think that more young people should do that?
Yes. Very much so.
What is it about like a motherly quality that you like?
Worked for thousands of years and it still works today.
I like being girly. I'm a girl and I like being girly, so I like traditional to girls.
Okay, well, according to the 7 Hermetic principles, one of those being the law of gender, gender manifests on all levels, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, all levels. Throughout the cosmos, there's gender. I don't know, it's a light. It's a book I read called The Supreme Way of Men or Women or something like that, and it spoke on how whether it's 2 women or 2 men, there still has to be someone who's masculine, someone who's feminine.
What would you spend on an engagement ring?
I'm not an engagement ring type of person. I'm like, but if she wanted a ring, I'd probably spend like 20 on it.
20 what?
1,000.
20,000. That's a lot of money.
Hey, and shit.
You don't get that lady a real answer.
No, for real. Ain't it how much you make though?
Price, I didn't really care. Size, absolutely. Had to be big enough it could be seen, and I didn't want like a basic ring. I wanted like eclectic, like vintage looking.
Okay.
So we did a custom order to do my ring.
I didn't have a preference. I just had a gold preference, and he kind of took it from there.
And you trusted him. Did he crush it?
Oh yeah, he crushed it.
I've been spoiled thus far, and so I don't think I could ever go back from what I received last time.
Okay, so high standards. That's good. What are the standards?
Okay, it was 5 carats.
Okay.
And it was beautiful.
Mine was way too expensive.
What's way too expensive?
Like $45,000.
Okay. Wow. You probably went with a real diamond.
Very much so, yeah.
Do you think that that's kind of a flex for the guy? Like, is the engagement ring, is the engagement ring only for the girl, or do you get to watch other people look at your girl's ring?
Solely for the girl. Solely for the girl.
You don't get any enjoyment?
Couldn't care less.
Red flags in dating, because obviously you found each other. Did you have any icks that you overlooked, or is he perfect?
No, he's perfect. We had a nice night out at the bar. Fought over a toy shark, and that's how it all got started.
What don't you like? Red flags?
Cheating, lying, stuff like that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What are you looking for in a woman?
Honesty, respect, in love for herself.
Some green flags are loyalty and trustworthy. Red flags are seeking attention from other women.
Jealousy, probably biggest thing, especially being around other girls all the time and having other girlfriends. That would be the number one thing, is jealousy.
Red flag is they're on their phone too much. Green flag is they're on their phone a lot with you.
Well, look for loyalty. That's it. I'm 24, so it's hard to come across that like when you're young. So that's really all I look for, really, honestly.
What were deal breakers?
If she was broke, I know that sounds crazy, but for real, if she was broke, cause like it's like, yeah, like I don't want to take care of a motherfucker. Like I want to equal.
Sixth, the Peabody location. Yeehaw Beer, Old Smoky Moonshine. I'm out with our rolls on across the OutKick Network. We'll hopefully be joined soon by Michael Bratton, SEC Mike, momentarily. Ole Miss extending Lane Kiffin through, did you say 2029?
2028.
2028.
Yeah.
He was originally, his contract expired after the 2026 season, where he was going to be making that year a flat $9 million. They gave him the raise this past offseason. As they continue to bump up the years, of course, National Signing Day coming up, and maybe you need some assurances there, but in the transfer portal world, I mean, there's no assurances either way. I wonder if Kiffin's signing anything that's what Michigan wants Harbaugh to sign. With you won't be flirting with any other jobs.
It's very
interesting.
interesting.
Harbaugh's is about the NFL.
Harbaugh won't sign it. The fact we're not getting news about his
I don't
contract
think
extension
Kiffin
on the
would either.
table, and that he's not signing it, tells me I'd be real nervous if I'm a Michigan fan that he's bolting for an NFL job after the season, right? Because they're basically saying we're giving you a lifetime contract, all the money you want. We'll continue to defend you to the death.
And they have.
Against the NCAA and
But
everyone
we'll also
else.
suspend you.
You just can't continue to flirt with the NFL. And he's like,
we'll defend you until we'll suspend you.
I'm going to need a second on that. I'm going to need a second on that one.
SEC Mike joins us here on Hot Mike. Michael Bratton. Good to see you, man. Hope things are well.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.
What about Ole Miss? You get Kiffin getting the extension. You've got National Signing Day. You've got the transfer portal. Oxford's crushing it right now, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put a ton of stock into the contract extension just because of Mississippi State laws. For those that don't know, you can only give an employee of the state a 4-year deal. So it's annually renewed. But, yeah, to your point, transfer portal, they're killing it. I think with the 12-team playoff coming right around the corner, that not only is Ole Miss, I mean, about a week ago, I was ready to say they're a playoff team. I'm ready to say they're a national championship. I don't think they're going to win it necessarily, but I think they're going to be in the conversation to win the next national championship. As crazy as that is to say, I think Ole Miss is doing the NIL game better than anybody, and I think it's clear as day to everyone down there. You know, we don't have many opportunities like this. We got all these players coming back. Let's go heavy into the portal. Let's make a run at it. This may be Lane Kiffin's best and only shot ever to win a national championship, and he's got the full support of everyone down there in Oxford, clearly.
Well, I mean, their schedule sets up perfectly, much like it did not this past season, but the year prior, for them to get off to a great start. But beyond, I mean, if they don't make the 12-team playoff, he's not going to get that annual contract extension a year from now.
He may not. Yeah, that's an excellent point, because if he doesn't get it done next year, yeah, I mean, they probably will never get it done. But I salute them. I salute Missouri for. Again, these teams are not bending any rules. A couple of years ago, it would have been bending the rules, but it's all above board now. So why not go all in when you got all the pieces? It's maybe the only time ever for schools like that, and I shouldn't say ever, but for the foreseeable future, that they can realistically compete for an SEC and maybe even a playoff berth.
Chad, I wonder what Jimbo Fisher's thinking about Lane Kiffin, that clown up there in Oxford that was complaining about all the NIL things.
To me, the strategy behind all this, Mike, when you look at, do you go with the blanket approach when it comes to NIL and we're just going to cast our nets out there and try to get everything we can, or get very strategic? Ole Miss is very strategic in that they go all in on something. And this year it's portal and it's really defensive line, right? With everyone they're bringing in. And they've completely revamped their defensive line to have a veteran all-star team almost across their defensive front, knowing that they're good at every other position. So, and you've seen this with different programs. Kentucky's another example that likes to work the portal a lot. But finding that right balance for each program, Mike, and trying to figure out what's right for your program and what you can do, I think is the hardest part of all this. But it feels like Ole Miss has kind of figured it out.
Yeah, I don't think this strategy is going to work everywhere. You know, if Nick Saban just went to the portal every year, I don't think that would work. He certainly could do that, I would imagine. Same thing with Kirby down at Georgia, but I don't think that's the method. It works for Ole Miss because Lane Kiffin's smart enough to know that if he's going toe-to-toe against LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Texas A&M, on and on and on, for a high school kid, he's probably going to lose most of those battles. So why kill yourself in high school recruiting? I think going to the portal is a much better option. Try to get guys that are clearly a year or two away from the NFL. That's what NFL life is going to be. Your coach is going to change more often than not. I think it's a stroke of genius by Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, and he deserves a ton of credit because he called this free agency a while ago. People are kind of rolling their eyes now that he's dominating it, but he saw this coming. And he saw this, I think, too, with, we'll never know how interested he really was in that Auburn job. I don't know if it was quite, 1 foot out the door like some people make it out to be, but he used that situation to get NIL donations up, and his program now is seizing that. So if I'm Heupel, I tell Tennessee, well, I'm leaving every other year just to get those NIL dollars in, even if he's got no plans to doing so.
Yeah, look, I think Tennessee's donating a lot of NIL dollars to players, but it's in a different way. Here's another example. And you mentioned it, how Lane Kiffin said it's free agency. Well, part of free agency is re-signing the guys on your roster. Tennessee went all in on getting their entire offensive line back, on getting one of their top defensive linemen back as a 5th, 6-year guy. That's another way that you can be successful in this era. What do you think about that strategy where now teams are going to have to allocate certain amounts of dollars to returning guys to make sure they don't go another place for 1 year so they can re-up and get more money somewhere else?
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest story behind the scenes that not enough people are talking about, particularly this time last year when certainly there were big-time players that entered the portal and changed schools and all that, just like there are now, but it's not really to the degree that some people in the media particularly made it out to be, like it was just going to be a free-for-all. And that's to your point, because a lot of these big-time schools, and particularly SEC schools I'm talking about here, that stepped up and kept players from leaving with NIL deals. And there's nothing wrong with that either. So, again, that's just another level to it. And Ole Miss is killing it with that. And I think that's a big reason why you've not seen – they've had about, I'm trying to think, 6, 7 big-time players commit to coming back, and they've all done it with the NIL collective. And who is the one that has yet to announce his intentions? Jackson Dart. And why is that? Because there's behind-the-scenes NIL discussions. They probably not hit the number he's quite comfortable with yet. So now that you're getting people like myself out here saying you're a playoff team, now I think that forces it's called the Grove Collective to really ante up and meet his price, because that's the expectation that we're putting on this program. And not that Jackson Dart, I don't think, is like the best quarterback in the country, but I'd put him top 5 in the SEC, no doubt, next season. And if you don't have him, all of a sudden, maybe these narratives change. So I like the way Jackson Dart is even playing this.
Now, former Vanderbilt quarterback A.J. Swann headed to LSU instead of South Carolina. Sounds like Malachi Nelson from USC could be going to USC. Where is Shane Beamer turning now at quarterback next year?
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? Because I would think A.J. Swann, his path to being a starter, much clearer in Columbia than it would be in Baton Rouge. Yeah, I did see that report, Malachi Nelson. Interesting, and that would be a major addition. I would imagine they have another young quarterback they really like, Lenoris Sellers, but he was not, I think he was a 3-star. I mean, that's not even comparable to a 5-star that was regarded by many to be a top 5, if not better, quarterback last recruiting cycle. But again, I think what is kind of most intriguing there with Malachi Nelson, and I don't know, so I don't want to just call the guy out or anything, but given Lincoln Riley's track record, I mean, it's safe to say he knows what he's got in a quarterback. And would he really be shopping the portal if he fully believed that Malachi Nelson was the answer and ready to take Southern Cal where Caleb Williams and those before him couldn't? I would certainly think not. So this may be a case of us kind of getting lured by the 5-stars and all this. I wish the best for Nelson, but it's just hard for me to see Lincoln Riley letting that guy walk out the door if he's what all the recruiting rankings say he is.
Many were surprised when Sam Pittman got another year at Arkansas. They're losing KJ Jefferson, who's in the portal right now. They brought in a few guys. What do they need to show? What do they need to do for him to get another year? And what's realistic for this Arkansas program?
Yeah, it's tough, Chad. I mean, I got a lot of Arkansas followers, and I would say 95% of them were ready to cut bait with Sam Pittman until he hired Bobby Petrino. And then they seemingly, that number changed to about 10% were ready to move on.
It's amazing.
I mean, never seen anything like it before in my life where you just hire as coordinator and you rally the fan base. But that is what has happened in Fayetteville with the return of Bobby Petrino. What has to happen? 2 years ago, their defense was pitiful. It was one of the worst in the conference, worse in the nation by some regard. They changed the coordinator. They got it right. And they were not locked down by any means, but they were very, very respectable before the wheels kind of fell off. They're not quite there in terms of depth on the defensive side of the ball under Travis Williams. But if they get a similar turnaround on the offense this season under Bobby Petrino, I think that's the key to Sam Pittman getting himself another year there at Arkansas. I don't think he could have done any better PR-wise. Will it be ideal for, the results on the field? Remains to be seen. But I think you look at what just last season at A&M, Bobby Petrino's only year there, Connor Wigman, Max Johnson, and some guy that I had never even heard of named Jalen Henderson. All three started for Texas A&M at quarterback, and all three of them had their best seasons they've ever had in college football. So that's a credit to Bobby Petrino.
Are we going to see Alabama and Texas in a rematch for the title?
I'd be stunned if we didn't. And I'm still kind of surprised that Michigan is the betting favorite over Alabama. I don't know what that's all about. I would have thought Alabama been favored by about a touchdown.
It may change, though. It's already gone from 2.5 to 1, I feel like. It's starting to get closer to a pick 'em the closer we get to the game.
Right. So, again, I guess Michigan pulling off, I guess it wouldn't technically be an upset. It'd be an upset in my mind. But let's say Michigan wins. I guess I wouldn't be floored by that. I would be floored if Texas lost to Washington. But that is what Texas seemingly does, don't they? They come with all this hype and then they fail to live up to it. But I certainly anticipate it will be Alabama, it will be Texas in Houston for the national championship. It sounds like a lot of these Alabama people, they're not even going to the Rose Bowl. They're saving their money for the national championship. And the last time they did that was 2014 when they had to face Ohio State, and it didn't work out for them. So I don't know. Rose Bowl is one of the most iconic scenes in all of sports, not just college football. So if I could get a ticket to that one, that'd be one, if I'm an Alabama fan, I couldn't miss.
Took Eli Drinkwitz a little while to get it going in Missouri, but he got it going this year. Is this sustainable? When you see what they're doing now in recruiting with a couple 5-star guys in the transfer portal, is this a program that can be built to be a 12-team playoff contender for the next 2 or 3 years, or do they revert back to the mean a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think what your critical part of your question there, for the next 2-3 years, I think it is sustainable. Now, over the next 10 years, different conversation. But these are the type of programs, I think, that have got to be thrilled that we're going to a 12-team format, because unless the stars aligned, I don't think they were ever making the 4-team playoff. But being in the SEC, winning 10, maybe even 11 games if they can finish the deal against Ohio State, I would put Missouri right in that conversation, probably preseason top 10. They have a lot coming back from this team. You mentioned it with the recruiting, getting the top defensive lineman in the country. They just basically stole Oklahoma's best offensive lineman via the portal this week. Masterful move by Drink and Company. They are playing big boy football on and off the field. They've made Tennessee physically quit in that game in November. That was kind of stunning to see. I think what Eli Drinkwitz is doing is very commendable, and it goes to a lot of these teams, a lot of these programs, fans. They want their coach fired after 2 bad seasons. Drake never had a winning season until this year in Columbia, and it has paid off in a massive, massive way for them.
Michael Bratton, check out that SEC podcast. SEC Mike joins us and always gives great insight. Mike, thank you as well, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you.
Absolutely. Same to you guys.
Thanks, Mike.
He's busy covering the portal and more. There's a lot of players.
Signing days tomorrow used to be a national holiday. Now, not such a big deal, I feel like, as it has been in the past.
There's like
the
4 different days.
The portal drowns everything out.
Yeah.
And there's also 2 signing days, which is different. So there's one now, then there's the late signing period in February.
Yeah, it's just, it was the holiday on the message boards, and the boast and the brag, and it was the off season.
Now it's Mary Flipmas from Ole Miss.
There you go.
Lane Kiffin.
There you go.
That's what it is.
Again, Jimbo Fisher, the back and forth with him and Kiffin.
Jimbo Fisher's just counting $100 bills somewhere right now, like an evil genius.
Kiffin missed 2.
Yeah.
Every year.
But Kiffin still has to work at least. He's got a job.
Jimbo
Fisher's doing
if he fails,
nothing.
he'll also get paid.
Yeah, he's hanging out on his ranch doing nothing, watching other people work.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick, the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I made the call to end the Me Too movement, and today I'm going to continue making that case. And that's just a way to further taunt these women, to make them feel less than, to make them realize that this has just become a big joke. Deion Sanders is the Donald Trump of football.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of a Southern legend.
Sixth at Peabody location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Got the distillery, the brewery here.
Just met a gentleman from New York City, Hutton.
Right out here at the bar?
Right out here, doing a tasting here in town with his daughter.
So he
going to the Preds game tonight.
Oh, he just turned to me and said, Clay.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Clay.
Well, he
great work,
looked
man.
at me and he said, huge fan. He
That's
said,
where I
huge
am.
fan of you guys, huge fan of what you do.
I'm the stunt
And I
double
said,
for
oh,
Clay.
thanks. I said, where are you? And that's funny. He said,
He's on a yacht in Australia now.
Yeah, very expensive yacht.
Yes, for sure.
Very nice man, though. So
Clay
the
or
Preds are playing
the
the Canucks tonight.
Both.
Davies, our resident Preds expert. Do they play the New York Rangers soon? He had a Rangers jersey, and he said, I'm a big Rangers fan, but they're in town to watch the Preds. They're going to the game tonight.
Okay, well, maybe he's in for the holidays or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's get him. Hey,
Maybe-
sir, please come in here. Let's get him in here.
Maybe
Let's
he's
interview him.
recruiting.
Could be. Could be
NIL.
a scout.
It's a big deal.
Either way, we appreciate him.
Chances are he's not upset like Jerry Kill is upset with the New Mexico AD from New Mexico State. This is
So Jerry Kill's quarterback urinated on the indoor facility in the offseason, right, in the summer, and then posted it after they beat New Mexico. So New Mexico State quarterback urinates on practice field indoor, and then this is the long troll job, right?
It's not the first time this practice field has been urinated on, is my guess.
No,
But
probably
go ahead.
not. But I mean,
or video.
Different, like when you pee in the pool.
Yeah.
Because you just really need to go versus nobody knows about it versus you whipping it out and peeing into the pool in front of the owner to show them that,
Or in the
that
egg
you're
bowl.
a boss, that you're a boss, right?
Yeah.
That's what the quarterback did. So he did this after they won, and he posted a video of him urinating on the indoor facility. Now, Jerry Kill in New Mexico State disciplined the guy, couldn't do interviews, had to do community service, something, right? Disciplined him. AD was pissed. And I understand why. If you're the AD at New Mexico, first off, you're rivals to begin with.
Sure.
Second, you don't want any of that. So allegedly, the AD made it difficult for Jerry Kill in New Mexico State to practice leading up to the New Mexico Bowl. Was this the Cure Bowl or was that a different bowl? This is the New Mexico Bowl. Was the New Mexico Cure Bowl? Whatever. The game that's in Albuquerque.
One of the 80 bowls.
It's the game in Albuquerque. But they did get to practice there. And then that led Jerry Kill to just go ham in his post-game press conference on the AD at New Mexico.
Isn't it interesting? So, like the Super Bowl, if you're in town, if you're in the NFL city, and you're like the NFC team will practice at if you have the NFC facility, if there's an NFC city, you'll practice at that facility, right?
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you have New Mexico practice hosting.
Well, they're the host of the bowl, so
Well, I
they
know
have to
that,
let both teams do it.
But
they were mad when New Mexico State was the team. I think we
But
have
normally-
audio of Jerry Kill.
Yeah. So yeah,
going off on this.
Here's his tirade about trying to restrict access.
When he don't let us want to practice in the indoor facility, when he don't want us to do this and do that, that's chicken. And I don't care. That's my opinion. I get in trouble. I don't give a either. Because I can go down to Mexico tomorrow, drink margaritas, and let you all enjoy your life, because I'll be enjoying mine. But I got class. I've had class my whole life. And you can ask the college football profession. I've had class. Never been treated like that.
That's Jerry Kill.
He's got class.
When you call out someone for being chicken bleep and say, I don't care, I can go down Mexico tomorrow, drink margaritas because I have class. I mean, it was Kenny Powers-esque from Jerry Kill.
Let me
really,
also
really
say,
good rant.
Let me also say, how great are these facilities? Because here's the deal. Fresno's practicing on the indoor, right?
Yeah.
He's upset that they had to go practice on a high school field.
But
they were going to make them. They were going to make them practice.
Yeah.
There are high school programs here in Nashville
that are better than college.
You would rather practice on those fields than Vanderbilt. You would rather practice on those fields than Nissan Stadium when it had brown grass in December. So, I mean, is it that immaculate?
Well, here's what I would do if I were Jerry Kill. I would not have had anyone fight for the right, not to party like Beastie Boys said,
Right, yeah.
but the right to practice on that indoor facility. I would have instead, the moment I caught wind that the AD was messing with that opportunity, I'd say, fine, we'll set it up at a high school, we'll go somewhere else. Then I would wait to trash the dude. When I found out that he was blocking my team from doing that, you wait, because now it's an empty deal because New Mexico can just go back and say, dude, you practiced on the field We didn't do anything.
Let
we
me
didn't stop
also-
you from doing anything, right?
In this day and age,
So
you're
just
right.
let them block you, and then I'd say, you don't want us on your practice field? Fine. We'll go somewhere else. And then I'd wait. I'd lie in the weeds and be ready to come out after the game and say, you chicken bleep, you know what? You know what you did. That's what I would do.
Also,
I wouldn't want to be allowed on the field.
The paranoia of spying and sign stealing and communication. You're going to go to your rival's practice facility for a bowl game and do this?
Well,
There's no way that's going
They
down.
had multiple officials that were there watching the entire practice.
Yeah, which Kill said that the police officers just kind of laughed and said, we got better things to do than sitting here watching the logo.
It's also funny that they brought like security and police in to protect the Lobo logo because the starting quarterback from Mexico State pissed on it one time. It's really funny.
On that particular day, it snowed. So, had to bring in the security to watch a practice that was probably awful.
Oh, man.
For a bowl game.
I love Jerry Kill, though.
Yeah, I
Going to
love
Mexico
the
to drink
rivalries.
margaritas.
I love the rivalries. I like both.
See some senoritas.
Yeah, he's got class, Jack.
Very classy.
Got class.
Very classy guy.
How about his quarterback, though?
Because I have class.
I have class. Ask anyone in the NCAA football
It's
profession.
tough to say that you have class when your quarterback is doing that.
Well, he may have
Like,
class.
that is a reflection of you as the head coach. I will say, to New Mexico's defense, great, you punished him. I mean, it would be a story if you didn't punish him at all. You didn't suspend him, to my knowledge. You said he couldn't do interviews. Okay. You did something at least, but still, that's pretty low class. Like, to then argue, I'm the one with class, but my quarterback did this, the leader of my football team. It's a tough bridge to walk across if you're Jerry Kill. But he did it, and he summed it up by saying, I could just easily go to Mexico next week and drink margaritas.
I hope the AD here gets the same damn discipline with the people around this state that Diego got because he deserves it.
I love it's
Amazing.
calling on the state to prosecute this guy. It's up to you, the officials of the state. I'm calling on you, Governor such and such. I'm calling on you, District Attorney such and such. It is time to prosecute this man and get him out of office. Office of the AD of University of New Mexico.
Hey, Jerry Kill.
Crazy story.
He's bowl games each in the first two seasons. It's race season for him too, man.
They beat the hell out of Auburn.
Race
the
season
week
for him
before
too.
Auburn
And
almost
then-
beat Alabama.
Yeah, and now he's reached the Conference USA Championship game again.
Good
Props.
for him.
He's got class.
Good for him.
Chad, are we seeing the end of the Derrick Henry era for the Titans? If so,
Of course.
well,
Right.
I think so. I do think so. But if so, it means the running back market's going to be a bit different than the way I perceive it to be. Because the Titans are a team that are all in on the run game. They suck right now. The offensive line is awful. But
Derrick Henry
How
didn't
many-
help either on Sunday.
well,
Offensive line was bad, but bad all around.
How many teams are going to line up to try to pay him versus what the other teams wouldn't pay certain running backs on the market after the age of 30?
Will. I don't think they will at this point.
So, because again, I don't know.
He's going to go play somewhere, right? I mean, he's going to
Yeah.
get paid, but not to
But the Titans,
some
the
big
Titans have
level.
right now the number one. They're the number one team in cap space. I do think we're seeing the final three games with Henry as a Titan, but I don't know if there's like more than 5 teams lined up to pay him as the top 1, 2, or 3 running backs
you're
in the
saying
NFL
there's a scenario where he comes back
on like a 1 or 2 year
and
deal.
could get a deal that's favorable
Again,
from the Titans.
yeah.
That's because the market's not going to be great for him
But
outside.
I do lean towards he's gone, just like Tannehill. And I mean, based on Levis's injury, who knows what we're going to see at quarterback. Tannehill's wanting to go to free agency healthy. I wouldn't want to play behind that offensive line. He's the backup quarterback right now.
I would
not Malik
say
Willis.
if the Titans get out now on Henry, it's probably the right time to do so because he's
Yeah.
on his way down. He still can be effective. I'm not saying he's done, cooked, any of that. He's going to do some good things in his career moving forward, but he's not the same Derrick Henry. He's just not going to be the
I
guy
agree.
that we saw at the top of
agree.
his game, and that's just natural for a guy with the amount of carries he's had over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and there are enough teams that will beat Baltimore comes to mind.
No, he's going to do something special for someone at some point.
Yeah.
Again, he's not dead. I'm not burying the guy, but he's not the same Derrick Henry.
Agreed.
And he knows that.
Agreed. Chad, what do we have these communion cups for? Oh, wait, these are shot glasses.
These are little plastic shot glasses. So Matt McCloy, who's been a loyal lieutenant of ours and served this show well, served OutKick well. You see him here posing with some pineapple strawberry water. Cannot disclose the location of where this is because Matt may or may not have, with other employees of OutKick, been walking in as not members of this place and taking the water for a while.
It's a public lobby, right? You can walk in and ask for a price.
Sure, yeah. I think it's kind of implied that that's for the guest. But, you know, if you want to take some of that water, have at it. It's water. But that was Matt there, and this is his final day, Hutton. This is his final day. So
you're bringing – what do you have with you?
In honor of his final day, I was told by a little birdie that there was something behind me that I'm going to have to
Okay, yeah, go grab it. Go grab it. You can check out we're giving some stuff here from Old Smoky. Check out Old Smoky Moonshine and Yeehaw Beer. But you can also check out the new and improved OutKick store. It's finally live. Stock up on golf polos, T-shirts, hats, and more. Shop.outkick.com. Shop.outkick.com. And that's also where you can go to stream the show live starting January 3rd. That's the only place to catch OutKick's original content. Shows will be live on the site, outkick.com. You can catch up on YouTube, but you'll be able to watch live just by clicking the Watch tab at outkick.com. Outkick.com/watch is your one-stop shop for all things OutKick live. On demand, still on YouTube. Live chat, not there. You have to watch live at outkick.com.
So we go live now to Matt McCloy, who's joined us in the hot seat right now. He's got his Tennessee Titans toboggan on. I call it a toboggan. It's a toboggan hat. Look this up over the weekend. Originations in Appalachia for calling that hat a toboggan.
What do you call it, Matt?
That it's a stocking cap everywhere else, right? Matt is from Iowa. What do we call that hat in Iowa?
I call it a stocking hat.
Yeah, everyone that's not in the South, it's a very Southern thing to say that's a toboggan, but it's a toboggan hat because you go sledding in a hat like that. We have poured some out. The Old Smoky whiskey brand.
Already on the ground. But
here.
Now.
And Matt, do you have any final words for us now that you're not going to see us anymore? Please, go ahead.
Your thoughts.
Well, I think it's just to see you later. I'm still going to be around Nashville. I'm sure I'll probably run into Hutton Chad, Titans game, maybe Bridgestone.
Yep.
I'm going to be around. And
always look for you, Matt, at the escalator.
I joked with some of the staff in here and said, if you ever hear a knock on that back door, you know to let me in. You know, I just want to come by and say hi.
It's either Matt or a drunk homeless guy at the back door.
Possibly wearing the same thing.
We hope that it's Matt at the back door, and then we can let him in.
Matt, yeah, what genuine, nice, always thoughtful.
Salt of the earth, Midwestern guy.
Yes.
Some of the best people on the planet.
Never seen him upset. And that's been the inside joke is that he's always wanting to fight everyone.
We try to make him mad, but you can't. Matt,
that's
terrific work. We appreciate you, buddy. Glad that you're not leaving town. Glad that you're going to be around. Thanks for working with us for this long. And cheers.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Or as Tommy DeVito would say, salute.
Salute. And cheers to the audience as well. Hopefully you can pour one back in a bit.
Smooth.
If not already.
Fill that thing up again. It's good. Matt, we're going to miss you, brother.
What was this we just had, the whiskey?
This is the official Old Smoky whiskey.
Cool. Smooth, you're right.
Not the Popcorn Sutton brand. That is available now.
I saw you post that too. Matt, appreciate you, man. And
thank you, Matt.
Thanks for tuning in to Hot Mic today as well. Back at it tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern. Hope you'll join us. Hot Mic with Hunter Withrow right here across the OutKick Network.